Okay, we're recording?
It
Great.
started.
Welcome again, everybody. Today is Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. It is 4:37 p.m. We're convened today as the Provo City School District Board of Education. We're meeting at 280 West 940 North in Provo, Utah. We're going to begin today with a roll call. And before we do that, I just want to extend a special welcome to our two new student board members. So we have Hutch and Monica with us today for the first time, so we're so happy to have both of you. Should we clap for them? So welcome to this. We're super excited to have you. Okay, roll call. Rebecca Nielsen, Board President.
Jennifer Percy, Vice President.
Melanie Hall, Board Member.
Lisa Boyce, Board Member.
Meg Van Wagenen, Board Member.
Hutch Paulus, Student Representative.
Student Board Member.
Oh, Student Board Member.
Monica Tuones, Student Board Member.
Gina Hales, regular board member.
Terry McCabe, Board Member.
Devin Bailey, Business Administrator.
Wendy Dow, Superintendent.
All right. Is there a motion to begin our study session today?
I move that we begin study.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Partridge. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll go with Board Member Boyce on that second. We're now in our study session. Okay, we're going to start with the board member, the board handbook training today by Board Member Lisa Boyce. We've got slides for that one. And Lisa, take it away.
Okay.
She's working on that. There we go.
This is pretty straightforward. I did add a couple things that were in the handbook. I just looked them up just to make sure we included everything. So we're just going to quickly review the purpose of our study sessions, our executive sessions, and our business meetings. Next slide. All right, our study sessions are where we talk in depth about different issues. We look at operational challenges. It kind of gives you the list of topics here, but really anything that we are going to be deciding on or voting on, for example, will be discussed in study session. Someone once asked me why everyone just agrees on everything. And I was like, tell me more about that. And they had watched a business meeting where we were kind of clicking through, and I was like, well, if you go back to the study session, you will see the discussion. And they were like, oh. So study session is really where the discussions, I feel like, take place, where we try to ask as many clarifying questions as possible about the different issues so that we feel prepared to vote in the business meeting. Study session, you'll see at the bottom, study sessions are held in public, but they do not include public comment, nor does the board enact votes for the purpose of establishing approved actions. So it's just a session to study the issues. Next slide. An executive session is a closed meeting, and it will include the board and not the student board members, and then our superintendent, business administrator, and others as needed. And I looked up the state law and included that with a link down below about which topics can be discussed in a closed executive session. Topics surrounding litigation, real estate and procurement, the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual, investigative issues of criminal conduct, and discussion of deployment of security personnel, devices, or systems. And then it just says at the bottom, no ordinance, rule, regulation, contract, or appointment may be approved in a closed meeting. And the only vote which may be taken in a closed meeting is a vote to end the closed meeting. So no one's making decisions off the record in those sessions, but that is a place to talk about things clearly that would potentially undermine the decisions that need to be made if they were held in public. That's it. And then our business meeting is the public meeting where we do get to have public comment, which I think is always a highlight to hear from people in the community. And it's where we will vote to approve policy, the consent calendar. We get to hear from different schools, recognize employees, etc., and that just gives us the general thing. It does say in our board handbook that we usually meet this is once a month, and it also still says that it's an early morning meeting every of the second meeting. So we're
working on a revision.
But that's it. That's any questions.
I think one of the things that we have to be careful with business meeting is, yes, we invite the public to do input, but it's our business in the public.
Correct.
It's our meeting in the public.
Okay.
So it's not their meeting. It's just something to be aware of.
Great. Well, good job. All right, that's it. That's your board.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments on these three topics? Okay, great. Thank you so much, Lisa. All right, we'll then move to item number 5 on our agenda. We're going to have a construction update now, and I believe we'll be hearing from Chad. Great. Okay, Chad, if you wouldn't mind taking your place at the front of the room for us.
Well, it's been a busy summer.
Yeah.
We'll also be having George from Hogan coming fairly
And
soon
Dave.
to answer any questions. I know there's been a few questions about Wasatch, and I want to make sure that he can address them without.
Great.
So then with that, while they're coming, let's skip past Wasatch and we'll come back to them.
Oh, you want to? Oh, sure. As soon as I actually get into hurricanes. Hold on. We'll just keep moving fast.
I think that looks beautiful.
I think so too.
Okay. Oh,
Shoreline.
oh, hold on. There's too many tabs. Okay.
Shoreline is open. Everything required by code has been accomplished and completed, so it is, people are moving in. These pictures, go through these, were taken from yesterday, right before school started today. Landscaping is complete. They finished, there were some windows that still showed some areas back behind that weren't finished. They were able to get that, so they made some huge progress in the last couple of weeks. Next one. Just more, yeah, looking into that. Commons, more of the landscaping, the striping for the buses, bike racks. Soccer field needs a little watering, but it's in.
It's been hot.
Next one. But yeah, everybody has moved in, and the administration has been working out of there, and it looks well. We've been spending a few days, a few weeks going through, documenting punch list items that need correcting. And got everything moved in, so it's running. Next one. Yeah, classrooms are set up, ready to go.
I have a question on classrooms.
Yes.
I haven't been for a couple of weeks, but last time I was there was a lot of work that needed to be done. Were all of the teachers able to move in and get set up for their classrooms prior to school starting?
Yes.
Okay.
Except for the sewing room.
So that's what I was just gonna say. Sewing.
I think everybody but sewing.
The sewing, the countertops came in, were installed Monday morning, but the sewing machines did not get mounted yet. So.
But she was able to move in minus the sewing machines?
Yes.
I should assume it's a she. You
Yeah,
teach
it
yours?
was-
Okay.
it is a
Yes.
she.
We spoke with her.
And yeah, there's some of the punch
That's
list
where I was
work.
standing last night, at the end of the hallway, doing the elevator for back to school night, so people could come on and off. Yes.
Did you wear a tux or a suit?
No, but I had my,
Okay, just
She
checking.
needs this to operate the
Okay.
elevator. And that was my question when I saw these yellow things, are they gonna be
Yes.
attached to the wall? Cause that's a very bright yellow
It is.
down that hallway.
These are the brackets for us, so yeah.
Yeah, I
they'll
saw the
just hang on
brackets.
those.
I like it.
I think it's gonna be
I know, I
awesome.
think it's a
Yeah,
great
it'll be beautiful.
project.
And I like, yeah,
And the
the
floor
graphic.
is cleaner than that because they cleaned the floor while I was there.
Yes. And I really like that graphic on the window, the panther over end of the cafeteria as well. And the elevator is certified, so.
Yes.
It's running without anyone having to operate. Next one. The learning stair did get stained. The only thing that's missing from it now, they were finishing outlets. This was yesterday. There's gonna be pads that are gonna be going on top of each other. The graphics that go up here, did arrive, but they were long colored, so that's why they had to keep the scaffolding up still. And so punch list stuff now going forward, I mean, you can see there's still some glass, there's a couple that were broken, those were actually just removed for them to lift stuff up before the elevator was certified, but there's a few things. It's probably gonna be over the next 2-3 months, depending on lead times of stuff, just to kind of button up all the punch list work. Next.
Sorry, can we go back? So were you talking about, sorry, I was taking notes. You're talking about the plywood up there?
Right, right.
And so that will be replaced. I'm a little concerned because I think they're meant to be shattered sometimes, right?
They're,
And how are they gonna hold up with middle schoolers if they can't hold up when no middle schoolers were there?
No, they were removed.
Oh, they were removed. All
these
of them
ones were removed. There is one over by the Learning Stair that is broken. It's a tempered glass, so it doesn't shatter. It just kind of cracks in place. It doesn't fall out.
Right.
But yeah, there is definitely a possibility of them getting broken with students.
Well, sorry, when I said broken, I meant the shattered look, but that's not what we signed up for, correct?
No, we don't
No,
have
but
safety glass.
they replaced them when they do that, then they go in and replace it.
Is that going to, I mean, like, once construction people are gone, are we then on the hook to replace all of those, is my
Yes.
question?
Yep.
And we okay this? Yikes, okay.
Okay.
It'll be great, Gina.
Gymnasium's done. They just finished this over the weekend.
The floor is actually cured.
The floor is cured. They want people to stay out for another couple days. I mean, there's workers working on walking
Except
on
for
it,
that
but
guy.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's being
because I was
moved.
talking to the PE teachers and they were concerned.
They should be able to, let's see, if they did this after Wednesday should be fine.
Okay.
There's still some of the unfinished stuff, the AV, the audio and the visual. The audio stuff is still being programmed, but it should be fine. And we're finding things just like with any new the locker rooms, thinking of gymnasium, the locker rooms, the water is not draining, so we're going to be looking at all the things that we're hearing.
I think, can I just say, I think the important thing too is once you get students in the building, you start figuring out some of the things that aren't working now that you have the kids using things.
Right.
And that's what allows us to finalize that punch list much more effectively. And when it's empty, you don't know what those problems are going to be. So it actually helps that our teachers and our administrators can give us that feedback so that we can work through all of those
And we're doing that
glitches.
both with
Yeah.
construction and furniture. As teachers have gone through, I love seeing how each one customizes their rooms and seeing what works for them, what doesn't, and doing what we can. The floor got painted in the auditorium on the stage. Same thing as at the gym here, still finishing some of the audio and visual stuff, but.
That's great.
Next. Dance, these are the dance rooms. That partition wall got installed, and so that room is. Oh yeah, and they got the bar up, so yep, that room is done. There's still.
The mirrors are missing.
The mirrors are missing, good catch, and then the edge still needs to be getting the base, so. Still a lot of little things. Okay. Any other questions on Shoreline?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's good.
Actually, I do have a question. Excuse me. We had construction people on site for a year at Provo High after we opened the door, so we really are thinking we only need people for 2 or 3 months?
For what is on the punch list, I would think 2, 3, 4 months, probably depend on lead times, but it is a 1-year warranty period. So you will see them throughout the year. If things come up that's under the warranty,
Okay.
we'll get those fixed during that first year.
Okay. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, Tipview, they have, over the summer, they moved their trailer over to here. It was over here, but they moved it over and they're clearing all this out to do the softball fields. Get that done as quick as possible. The bleacher box got installed, the press box. Just finished on the AV. They did the training on that on last Thursday, so that's.
Can I ask a question on the bleachers?
Yes.
So where it says Thunderbirds, is it gonna be extended or is that just?
I question that too.
'Cause it
but
doesn't
that's-
look finished.
No, I
Yeah.
know. I asked them why they didn't go all the way, but that was the design just to cover up that building
Really?
underneath. Yeah.
Cause it
So that
doesn't
is
look
per design.
finished. Okay.
It looks awesome.
I know it looks awesome.
Wait, what am I not seeing? What are you
The
talking
gray. See it only goes along the
Where it
roof line
stops
of
right
the
there.
building underneath.
So those 2 poles are left empty, so it looks like
Not
it's all the way
centered
across.
and it's, yeah, it's fine.
So it just doesn't look finished, in my opinion.
That is interesting. And that was planned, right?
That was the plan.
we change that plan? I feel like a lot of, no, she told me no.
Down, fast, she like shook her head.
No. I was just asking because
There's supposed to be storage
I just need to
there.
let people know if they like say, well, is it gonna be finished? I'll say it is finished. Just.
It
Well,
is
I-
finished.
I wonder when you're like actually seeing it in person if it makes more sense. Like, you know,
Okay.
just
No, it doesn't.
Are you talking here?
on the
On the
other
other
side.
No, on the
No,
other side,
it's
see, it
right
doesn't
there.
go It's gonna be
That's
storage.
That's outside storage.
That's outside storage.
Storage of what?
Track equipment.
Track
probably.
equipment.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to be able to move it in and
Hurdles,
out.
yes.
pads,
Yeah.
And it has to be tall?
Pool ball.
Some
Okay.
of it, yeah.
Okay, as long as I have it, like when people start
Asking
My
you lots
initial
of questions.
understanding.
Why does that look
Why
unfinished?
does that look weird?
Can we just like double check that, cause we don't wanna leave something that looks unfinished for the next 50 years.
We'll look at it. I'll look at it.
Pods in there.
Yeah, will it be caged there, or were we gonna put like some literal like pods? What do you mean by that?
They'll just be stored under there, but they're
Those white
tall,
storage pods.
right? So
What's
you have to
tall?
have
But
it
what's
that
tall in, what's
No,
tall
that's
for
nothing.
track and field?
Well,
Then we don't do pole vault.
No, I
We don't have pole vault.
Can't you go in on
We'll
the
find out.
side? You could go in on the side, right?
We just
Anyway,
put kids
I'm
in
just
it.
throwing that out there,
Got it.
sorry.
We'll look
Well,
at
I
it.
matching
Matching
purple
pull up
color.
with like the high jump standards that you have to put it on those, I mean, they usually have wheels and you can roll them to the
That's
storage
true.
area, but then you still have to store them.
You just need to see that.
Well, in
Next slide.
storage, if you're taking stuff to the field, you're gonna be coming from the side to
Yeah.
get into there instead of from the, we'll look into it.
Thank you.
Right, that's what I was wondering, is there a way?
There's the
There.
close-up, there you
Okay,
go.
see now I understand what
Doesn't
you're
look
talking about.
finished.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's what I'm asking, is there gonna be like some kind of chain link around it or something, so people just don't have access to like?
There is, yes, there is chain link all the way around. We did add chain link, you can see
You can
here.
see it
So
there.
there is chain link, but we'll go all the way around to prevent the students from going underneath.
So that storage area will be,
It'll be behind a fence.
okay. Yeah, that is cool.
And that's where the home team is, right?
Yeah.
Because
No, they switch
during
sides, although the
football
kids
games,
are in
the
east.
sun goes straight towards the mountains.
Okay, good.
So-
Mark, you can speak to this side, we can
We'll
just
check.
like to move to the other side.
The other side was hard to watch the
Add
game
inside
on.
the Thunderbird.
The
Yeah.
visitor side?
Yeah, the now visitor side was really hard to watch the
No,
game on.
yeah.
Okay.
We'll ask the question tomorrow in our meeting with Mark.
But they are
Okay.
swapping it, so the now visitor side will be the student, or home side.
Yeah.
So when football starts this weekend, this will be fenced off here. So the concessions will be open this area, but this stair and this ramp is gonna be closed off. This will be closed off, so that's still all part of construction. The concession building did get a window yesterday, but it was the wrong window. They do have a temporary solution that they're gonna have in by Thursday, and then the permanent one will come in September. Next.
Wait, so this is all gonna be ready for the first football game?
Thursday
Yes.
night.
Yep.
Thursday.
It's ready.
So,
Okay.
are they accessing the field then from this side over here?
So you
Or are you
access the
accessing it
field
from that
The
side?
northeast.
from over here, from the north.
Yeah.
The northeast.
The south is,
But that's
I don't-
open.
that's the emergency exit if needed.
Isn't it still open on that side of the field?
Students
I thought
don't.
I thought we drove on that.
Students
It's
will
just
drive on it,
for
though.
those who need.
No, it's too,
to
like,
back.
we drove on it with a golf cart.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but there's no access from the
They're gonna
west,
park by the
north,
From the
east
west,
side?
no.
Well, but there's a ton of parking along the street, so then they can access
So people
it
will
that
have to
way.
park
Right.
here and walk
All the way
around the school to get in?
Yeah.
Park over by seminary, or I don't know how it,
I mean.
or they can park and go up that path.
Yeah,
They
okay.
can't.
So
Okay, that's
there's
good.
the
Because
light.
I do,
That's
they're
where we
gonna
did
want
our
our
park
staff
out.
here.
I've got a picture.
Does Moby need to post something on or
I'll make-
social
we'll
media
make
so
sure.
everybody
She's-
knows
she's
how to
A
do
lot
it?
of people
She's
now
into
think
the
that the
game?
south parking lot is gonna be open for the game, so I feel like people are gonna get stuck just trying to get around, and that might cause some issues. I feel like that should be posted somewhere, just that this is the only opening on this side. Cause if people park by the tennis court, then they have to walk all the way around.
She's saying there'll be a gate
No, there's
open
gonna
down
be an
here.
But there
entrance
will
on the
be?
other side, yeah. It's
So
I think
they
the
can
hours
come
that
up
needs
this
to be
way, around
posted.
this side,
Yes.
Okay.
or they can come from behind, above the CTE.
I'll be there on Thursday and make sure you can get in that way, so the kids don't have to walk all the way around.
Sounds good.
That's not happening.
Yeah, just another picture of the bleachers, all done. Next one. The new turf, the new field,
Very
ready
pretty.
to go. Next. This is, yeah, this pathway with the lights. We had these solar lights along this top here, and then when it gets down along the neighbors, we brought in some light towers that are solar towers. So, and the fire marshal has come out and inspected and approved it, it's good to go. There was also in the CTE, we had to update the fire sprinkler heads, and that was also approved by the fire marshal and completed for school. Okay, next. The parking lot was done here. Yeah, when they moved the trailer over, so they're moving everything from the softball field over to be staged here. End of September, 1st of October, they plan to hand this over to the school for parking, this area here. They need to keep this area for staging.
I'm sorry, what date did you say?
End of September, 1st of
Okay.
October.
Okay.
But just that lower half of it, right? Not-
Just this
Okay.
piece right here.
So they still need to get from the trailer over to this construction site,
Right.
so we can't give them, they're not gonna completely finish that back for a little while, but we did talk them into that front section, so at least we had a little bit more.
So the construction fence will still come here, come up here and around, and
But
still
it's-
all this blocked
But I
off.
think it's to bring staff back onto the parking lot, because they're parking so far away. So I think we need to recognize that that's not gonna open up student parking. That's gonna open up parking for staff, so I think I just don't want parents to be upset saying, I thought there were gonna be 80 spaces, there will be for staff members.
And the student asked today if the students were allowed to park at Edgemont.
There's 30
The
spaces,
nine-
but
the
I think
nine.
most of them are for faculty.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
but
they were
they weren't
full,
clear.
like those 30 spaces were full when we showed up there at like 7:20, 7:25.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
the
sure.
teachers are parking there. So, and they only have 30 spaces allotted, the rest is for Edgemont, so.
Okay, next one.
Carpool.
Yeah, just another one of the parking there that's complete. So yes, this is the piece that will be given to the school. Next one?
So can I go back just one?
Yes.
Why are we paving it if it's just gonna be a staging area?
We have had some very long conversations with them about that making sure it is very protected, and if it's not protected, they will be replacing it. Or if it's damaged, they will be turning it over to like new.
Thank you. Okay.
The reason they were hurrying, they're trying to get, the goal was, because this is opening in February, you can't do asphalt unless the temperature is above a certain temperature, and so they were trying to get it done before fall.
Why is there a lot of grass that needs to be watered? Do we need water?
Yeah, this is, there at the bus loop, the temporary, got the landscaping done. This will pretty much be the only grass, and this is technically a water detention area.
Oh, I see, okay.
So it can't be parking there.
It cannot be parked.
Okay, that's what I was like, wait,
I was like, there
why
could have
is
been
there-
2 more rows here.
No.
We got it this morning and we're like,
Sorry, I'm muttering over here.
why
Why is there so much grass?
Yeah, I know.
The rest of the landscaping will be mostly just this cobble, stone with a few shrubs and plants.
Can I ask a quick question? So back on the parking lots, the one that the staging, is that in preparations for going with the 4-year plan of phase 2, or is
The
that?
staging is for the gym that's actually being
That we're
built
doing right now.
So these,
We haven't
this right
decided
here,
that yet.
these are all the joists that are going into the new gym. So it's all the materials that's for the current construction.
Current one done in February, that this is.
Yes.
And we needed to move it so that we could get softball
That's right.
set down, because if you don't get that sod down, then it won't, it's gotta be late by
It's
October,
got-
so.
Yes. Okay. So they are pretty much done the current progress here. So this is going to be the wrestling rooms here. This is the North Gym. They couldn't start on the footings and foundations for and the piers for this until they got all the joists into this, because of the crane would have been too far to reach over. So they got that done. Now they're getting this. It is on the schedule. It is a few weeks late, but they are recovering. They're working. They're ahead in other areas, so I'm not too concerned about it yet. This will be the new entry vestibule once complete, and then this is the stair, exit stair out of administration. So site work is going well.
When is the expected date for the North Gym to be open for?
It's all going to be February. Current schedule is February 19th. Next one. This is just another look. So this is the dance and cardio rooms. These darker stripes here is where we did have windows. These are the windows we took out for the next phase, and so there's going to be skylights instead. And then this is the North Gym, and then coming out for the wrestling rooms. Next, just inside the dance studios. Masonry is moving quick. Masonry is going ahead of schedule, so that's going well. This is just inside the North Gym. Starting to get the decking on top, so that should be starting to get closed in pretty quick. This is the new hallway. This is a cafeteria on this side, so this is the new hallway or the Thunderdome between the North Gym and the cafeteria, so that got poured.
What is this gonna, will you help me understand like a support beam coming on there and that spacing between that wall? Will that eventually all be covered?
They will build out around it, so it's hidden.
Okay.
Okay. Questions? Tim View?
So that area where you said would be a new vestibule to enter the school, does that stay in our long-term plan to do the rest of the phases, or will that be taken away?
It does not, which is why we reduced the size of them, made it a lot more simple, so it's to save some money.
That's right.
For the next phase.
So do we even need to have that there, or just the way we're
For
using
security,
it for
it's a
safety?
secure vestibule, the security.
So have a secure entrance for the next one.
Because if you're going into the academic wings, there's no secure entrance, so you don't want that. Where they're currently going in, that's not a secured vestibule, so you want to direct your traffic through. That once
At
school
least
day
school
starts, then they're going to be directed through that.
I guess the
space.
question is though, when you're doing the next phase of construction, will that be a vestibule that can be used while you're in that
That's a great
construction?
question. I don't know
Yeah.
the answer.
That's a
Because
good question.
You just have,
if we're gonna use it for 8 months, or
Then
how,
why
you know
are
what I
we
mean, and then
building?
start the next phase and then it's.
We'll ask that question tomorrow too.
okay.
Got it.
Otherwise,
Yeah,
we
let's
might
not
need to
put it
secure
in,
what we've
it's
got
only gonna last
right
a
now.
year or less.
The design team has been, instead of this next phase, to figure out those details of how that goes together, they've been focusing mostly on the cafeteria remodel, so they haven't got to design of how that will truly work yet.
So before we
Okay.
get far in building it though, I guess, I
Yeah,
think
we
that's a
don't wanna
good
build
question.
something
And
that's
that's more
not
of a
gonna.
question for VCBO than it is
Yeah.
for.
Correct.
So I'll follow up on
Yes.
that.
We'll wanna ask Dave what the plan is for that secure entrance.
You do move into phase 2.
Yeah, when we move into the next phase, what feels like phase 12.
I know, exactly.
Is there only 2?
I still feel like phase 1 is like multiple phases.
One's had A, B, C, D, E.
Okay. I just want to say, we were up at Tempe today, and I think Momi and her team have done a fantastic job of making that school feel so welcoming. I felt like it was still a great place of learning. I felt like there was just a ton of love. I know it's, it kind of feels like it's in this construction phase, but it really was a very welcoming space, and I just wouldn't hesitate to send my kid to that school. Like, I really wouldn't. And so I know it has its frustrations, but I've been very impressed with how Tempe, their entire faculty and staff have been handling things. So anyway, just my 2 cents.
Okay, Wasatch, George and Dave here with Hogan. to help with this, so come on up.
Wait, this wasn't in the plan, was it?
Well, I mean, you're like, wait, are you?
Yeah. This was the last minute invitation.
Yes, it was. It was the last minute invitation. I just figured George would do a better job answering questions than I would, since I haven't been on the project for the last few years. But well, if you want to go through the slides and then questions, would you guys mind answering questions?
Sure.
Thank you. Also.
And jump in if there's something I missed as well.
Yeah, you guys have a great insight on it, so.
Yeah. Masonry is going to wrap up and be completely done this week. So that's a big milestone. Playground equipment is in. The roof will be, this is the only last piece of the roof, and they're back on site now. We're working to finish that up, so that'll be done here soon. Asphalt for here. Again, this is one, since it opens in December, we need to get the sod in, the landscaping, and asphalting before winter. So September 9th is the plan for asphalt, all asphalt, and then September 10th or something for sod.
The landscaper has all the irrigation
in,
and they're just putting down the topsoil. We want to get the sod in so it can root before winter hits, but it should be fine. Then the other parking lot, towards the end of September, just to get all the asphalt in before the plants close. Like Chad had mentioned earlier, it's kind of a temperature sensitive product that has to go down, and so that's what we're working on to get the asphalt down.
Okay. Playground equipment is in, so this will be the fence line for the kindergarten area, and then the main playground. And the slides are big.
Looks like it's going to be a fun little playground.
It looks like a fun playground.
I wouldn't mind going down a few of those.
I know,
I'm glad
they
there's
haven't
that
let us
slide on
yet.
the-
Can we go back to the playground?
Sure.
They're not putting wood chips in here, correct?
No, it's a pour and play surface. So
Yeah,
it's a
kind of a
Because we're kinda trying
rubberized
Yeah.
surface.
rubberized play surface. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And
Because I hate those stupid wood chips. I come home and I have.
No.
my
It's
kids
gonna
are
be,
down.
it's gonna be down, it's gonna be on this upper level, it's gonna be all over.
And on the slope.
And
yeah.
on the slope.
So,
Okay.
yeah, it'll go right to where the dirt
That's really
is,
fun,
and then
actually.
up on the top, and then down the slope.
Okay. Masonry is complete, entry vestibule. This will be getting it's a sage green metal panel.
Yeah.
And then curtain wall glass to enclose that front entry there. Next one.
Sorry, can we go back? I apologize. What's enclosing the middle part above the entry? Is it?
This?
Yeah. Is
Glass.
there-
Yeah,
that
it's
whole
all
thing
just
is
glass.
Okay.
Yep. I like the brickwork that they did on this, the detail. It's turned out well. So this is just on the back side of the kindergartens, wrapped around. Next one. This one doesn't look like much, but this is important because that's your elevator.
So it's in the building.
Yeah.
The elevator is in the building.
Can we schedule the state inspection for that right now?
No, for reals.
So the elevator, and Chad probably has told you, the elevator is kind of tricky because right now permanent power has been the holdup, I think, on this particular job, and but we have made arrangements to just actually get some temporary power to install the elevator, so we can get a little bit ahead of the curve on that. So we're going to be using the generator to get the installation done. We still won't be able to get the final inspection until we get the permanent power, but at least we'll have the elevator installed and ready for that permanent power.
What's holding up the permanent power?
So the manufacturer, so we're kind of, construction industry as well as a lot of other industries kind of get held hostage by some of the big manufacturers, and so we placed the order like over a year and a half ago, and so what they do is they build all of these components as a kind of a custom to each school, and these companies are busy, and it's basically we just get it when they say we can get it. And so that really is kind of the nature of
They did initially say, we've been counting on toward the beginning of September. They
Yeah.
came back and they said, October. George went and fought him and got it back to mid-September.
Yeah. So what happened was is we've kind of been working with our electrician, and we've even said, hey, we've had him reach out constantly saying, is there any way we can, push that date up? I mean, we even offered to pay him more money, just try to push that and get that coming sooner, but they said no, money won't do it. And then we were checking here in July, and all of a sudden the electrician has a portal that he can go in and look at, the updated status of his order. All of a sudden he looks at it and it says this order's been pushed out to October, the end of October. And so we're like, oh, what's going on? And so then we reached out to the regional manager at Eaton Electronics, and it was kind of hard to even get a hold of him. And so he kind of started looking into it, and he said he's pushed that up. So we're taking that at face value, although our electrician's portal still has the October date, but so.
They don't have any kind of penalty if they can't.
Supply chain
No.
situation.
Yeah, I wish we could if we could figure out a way to do that, we might be able to get more things to happen, but.
And you said you ordered it a whole year ago, like
Yeah.
ordering
In fact,
these
it was
are
actually
all-
over a year,
Okay,
over a
okay.
year
So it's
ago.
not like
So,
something-
so those are some of the first things that when we get a project, those are the long lead items, and we make sure that we get some of that stuff ordered, and that has been kind of an industry-wide problem in terms of delay of projects and everything. And air handlers are another one that has been very problematic for jobs and schools and businesses that have these air handlers that are kind of a custom-made air handler. It's hard to, force these companies to say, hey, we need it, and, But fortunately, we were able to reach out to that regional manager, and he's given us some assurance that he's pushed it up the chain. But until that actually, we see maybe a modified ship date and we see that come, we just hold our breath at that point, so.
We've even this morning we met talking about schedule. January 15th is the hard deadline we've given to give time to get out of the old school. We talked about plan A, plan B, plan C. If needed, we will go and ask laborers to supplement nights and weekends. There would be an overtime cost for that, but
yeah.
And we would be on the line for the overtime costs at that point?
If we need to do that to meet that January 15th, if the gear doesn't come, we're just looking at all options, and that is one option.
Yeah.
But they haven't said anything to their subs yet about it until we know for certain, because they're already working. I mean,
Yeah,
every day
we're pushing those guys as much as we can right now, and there's still a lot of work that can be done before that power needs to be here. So our electrician, this electrical gear that we're talking about is just the main electrical power that goes on the outside of the building, and all of the electrical panels throughout the building tie to this, and it feeds the power to every one of those panels. And so our electrician is working backwards in this case to get all the wiring back to that back of house where this switch gear goes. And so we're hoping that once that arrives, we have about a 3-week time to just get that all connected. But then there's still a lot of work that has to be done in terms of what we call checkout with the mechanical equipment. We need to make sure that everything is functioning the right way, like the motors, like the polarity on the motors, they need to rotate the right direction. So there's a lot of work that has to happen after that power gets put in the lighting system. Yeah. So we are working backwards, and so like Chad was saying, we don't want to really tell the electrician or anybody that will pay him any extra money until we get to that point, because we don't want them to let up. So we're still pushing them along in terms of trying to get this done. So.
And there's 100+ people on that
Yeah.
project every day.
Yeah.
Working. It's a busy site.
So.
Okay, next one.
Yeah, since that one doesn't look that good.
Yeah, let's do a better looking picture.
Devin,
Oh, next slide, sorry. I was answering a question.
First floor is looking really good. Paint is done, ceilings are going in, the ceiling grid is in, tile is done. Next will be cabinets going into these spaces on the first floor, and then flooring, and then the ongoing will be, they've already started pulling cabling, so it'll be the mechanical and electrical finish work, so, and plumbing. The kitchen hood has gone in, so the kitchen equipment is moving along.
Yeah, we have some of the other kitchen equipment scheduled for first part of September. The tile guys is gonna be there getting the floor and stuff in, and so we don't really anticipate too much of an issue with that.
This is second floor. As you know, they're going floor by floor. This is kindergarten. Drywall has been taped and mudded. Mechanical is going well. The fire inspection, is it?
The
this
hydro
week?
test, yeah, no, that happened this morning.
That happened this morning?
Yeah, this morning, so that, we passed that with the fire marshal, so.
Excellent, so they can
Yeah.
start doing the ceiling grid in here as well. Next one. Second floor hallway progress, paint in there as well and tile. The switchgear, the long lead items are switchgear, you mentioned mechanical equipment and elevators.
Yeah, and the air handlers that are here, yeah.
Yep, and this is all for the mechanical, so that was the other one that we're concerned about. Other than the switchgear, we should have all long
Yeah.
lead.
We're
Question
really
marks.
looking at, this is one of the
Done.
custom air handlers, there's a couple in this school. And that has been a delay on a lot of the projects that are going on right now. We were fortunate to get these delivered when we did, and so they're expected to finish up by the end of next week with all of the custom air handler work, and then there'll be a little bit of duct work and a little bit of piping that needs to be connected to that, probably about another 6 weeks worth of work on connecting that mechanical system, so.
And then third floor, tape is going in and then tile will be starting to go up in here, so.
I think the tile on that third floor, there's just a little bit of tile in the kitchen area and on that third floor, and maybe just little other miscellaneous areas, but.
And the drywall, this is right next to the mechanical, so holding off on doing that wall until they get all that built.
Some of the duct work and piping through there, yeah.
Yep. That's it.
Can I ask a question? It looks like from the kindergarten room you go out, directly outside, right? And that's on the second level. I can't remember, maybe an overview of the school would help me.
It's on the north side, so it,
Yeah,
it's
the
almost
kid-
like a
this is,
walkout.
yeah.
There,
Right
okay.
here. Yeah, see, it's,
Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry.
I hit it too many times.
You're in.
Right, yeah, right there, so that way you just,
I
straight, they don't have
see.
to, the first floor is the office, and that's
Sorry.
like, almost like the basement, essentially, like a.
Yeah, so from the
Right.
front, it has 3 levels.
Yeah.
But then midway through the building, you've got 2 levels, and that kindergarten area comes out into this playground area. So you have the kindergarten playground area that's more in the forefront, and then kind of the other playground
Is this
area that's
where
in the back.
Where were you talking about, like a.
The sidewalk. Yeah, that's Oakmont, right?
Okay.
Go back
Yeah.
one,
Yep.
Evan, to that more
Drainage
overall.
there.
So
I
yeah, you can
yeah.
see
Uh-huh.
from this parking lot, it's level to the kindergarten entry right here, or you can come down these steps, come to the first floor.
All right, on this slide, we wanted Meg to show us something about the sidewalk. There was concern raised today, and we're just
So
trying to
this is
understand what they're
initially
talking about.
Yeah, no, you're
Right
good.
here, so this is Oakmont. The concern is that the sidewalk here is 6 feet, but the park strip's only gonna be 2 feet. City code, according to Gordon with the city, is 7 feet of a park strip.
Tree-lined park strip.
So the original plans on this actually had it as an 8-foot sidewalk. We went to the city and we have built it as the city has directed. I said,
Yeah,
you
where
have
we
it.
are?
yeah, that, I mean, yeah, we went through city planning, and everything
Right, so
has
you
all been
followed all these,
approved,
okay.
yeah, through the city on that.
There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of
Yeah, there was a
changes
lot of
going
back and forth, and it's still, some of that upper part where, is it, Oak Cliff
Oak
comes
Cliff,
down?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they have some improvements that are in the works that they're planning on doing.
Yes, It took, put,
Well, and we're
Yeah,
putting
some
a barrier in,
barricades and
right?
No,
whatnot
the
in there.
city's doing
The
that.
city's doing
Yeah,
that.
that's,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
that is part of the city.
right here, the city got a CBDG, I'm saying that wrong, but the CBDG grant?
CDBG.
CDBG.
All the
Grant.
letters grant.
Yeah, so they're doing improvements right here,
Uh-huh.
widening the sidewalk, there's gonna be bulb outs right here, so kids are gonna cross, that come up from 1450 and up in Oak Hills, they're gonna come down here. At first, they didn't even, there's no sidewalk here for the
Yeah.
kids to access, but they are gonna, looks like they're gonna finish the sidewalk right there to get kids down here. The concern though, I think, is that this is still pretty
Yeah,
steep, so kids
yeah.
are gonna come,
It is.
walk down, and then I think they enter the campus here
Right.
somewhere.
Right here.
Right, so, I think, and I've mentioned this before, it is interesting, there's just all this space, like, is there any way we could pull kids onto the campus?
Yeah.
So they don't have to walk down that sidewalk?
Mhm.
But that's probably too late
The
for that.
problem is I think you still have the same, it's the same slope if you were to pull them onto the campus here as it is
Sure,
along
so
the street.
let me
line.
clarify, yeah, it's not the, so that, yeah, the slope issue won't be resolved, but the proximity to cars will be solved.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's,
Yeah.
sorry, I wasn't
Yeah.
clear about that. And I think
Um,
that's the concern with the 6-foot sidewalk and then only 2-foot park strip. Kids, if they are on scooters, I mean, they're just, it's a steep road, and cars, they just do go fast around there. Hopefully, the improvements with school zone signs will help,
And this-
but, and, yeah, so that, I think it was the concern of if there was a wider buffer of a park strip,
I agree.
then it's just a bigger buffer for the kids and the cars.
Because the
And
city's saying that their standard, the city standard would be a 6-foot sidewalk and a 7-foot tree-lined park strip. And
It
so
sounds
then
like that
this.
wasn't what they communicate to you guys, right?
Yeah, like I said, this has all gone
I
through
don't
the
know
city,
how they
it's gone
can
through.
do that. I mean, when 500 West was redone, that is the standard for 500 West. But you can't expect that in a neighborhood like this.
Well, it's-
500 West is a busy road. You
Correct,
can't-
but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, if we have students on scooters coming down that hill, and there's only a 2-foot paved
Yeah.
buffer between them and the street, it is a safety concern.
Yeah.
We,
Well, I think just anybody on a scooter on that slope of a hill is probably gonna be a safety concern. I mean,
and
and
it would be a change in design and a change in a cost, but
To put
we
kids
can
on.
see what it would take to do a off-street pathway. We can explore it, if you'd like us to.
so what do you,
I don't know. I mean, I think it would have to be probably a series of steps, pathway steps.
And I think that when that was brought up before, that was the concern, that it actually is a
Yeah.
whole restructuring design, and you have to put steps in.
yeah.
The one time we talked about a set of stairs here,
Yes.
but then
Oh.
that becomes problematic, keeping in the winter, stairs, snow, ice, safety for the kids, and it just didn't seem to be a great idea.
But I get that, but I do think the daily safety concern with cars and kids is just a much more
Mhm.
high likelihood than the times in the winter when, I mean, we really have
Yeah.
snow removal. Do you know what I mean? I just think
So,
sometimes we.
so what's the expected, like, how many students are gonna be walking to school, and do we know what those paths are gonna be? I know at one time I was at a meeting with the city, and I don't know if they had those numbers, they were trying to create those safe
Right.
walking paths, and I think that's when they had talked about this whole improvement on Oakmont. And,
So 95, when I got the numbers last year, it was like 94 students live in the Oak Hills neighborhood.
Okay.
So that, in theory, because I think with this new site too, when our transportation last gave us numbers, there isn't warrant for potential either bus. So all those kids in theory would be walking
Would
to
be
the school.
walking.
And I think when we
Yeah.
moved to this site, I wasn't on the board at that time, but this was pitched as a more walkable, bikeable site than the current site. So I think that, for those families up there, that was an expectation of moving the school.
yeah. 'Cause I haven't seen the final design for this, but what I saw, one of the preliminary designs, is they were gonna try to create some kind of a walking path that was in the street, which in my mind, the sidewalk that's along Oakmont here seems to be a little bit safer than almost being right out in the street, but.
Sure, and again, it's not gonna be in the, I don't think the one that they're doing the improvements on, it's no longer in the street at least. It's a wider sidewalk with a bulb out at the corner.
So are they going to, like,
They did, there was some
somebody
eminent
buying
domain. Yeah,
property?
there was eminent
They're-
domain.
Oh, they're
Yes,
doing so,
yeah,
okay,
there's
all right.
eminent domain,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's a little bit different design than I think what I had seen,
Yeah,
because
no, they
I
had
think-
to work with the neighbors to make that.
get
So do
that
we need to
going.
get with the city again and just make sure we're all on the same page and see if there's any adjustments that need to be made?
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
well, the city's understanding is the Oakmont sidewalk was our responsibility, what we.
Yeah.
But it sounds like.
But we still have to follow.
But we do it
But
per
we
their
did it-
standards.
You approved
For
it,
their-
yeah.
but it was
So
approved.
Devin,
Yeah,
so
it was approved.
who arranges that?
I mean, is the main concern just right here where traffic is gonna be coming down?
Walking along
Or
that
is it
whole
all the
street.
way along?
I think it's all
that
the way
street?
along,
All the way
in the
along.
proximity to cars, I think,
Okay.
going around there, but.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to solve,
I just thought,
you know,
could you put
all
in
that, I
like-
guess you could put
Come on,
some
George.
bollards
So-
down.
Yeah,
and I
Put
realize
you
we're
could put-
asking questions.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
I guess the
not-
other option is if they are talking about putting Jersey barriers down, I mean,
Put
a simple
barricades to
solution would
separate
be
the street from the
maybe some
sidewalk.
Jersey barriers all the way down the street.
Mhm.
Because I do know, I mean, when you get down here, there are Jersey barriers that protect, you know, the little gas.
And the kids will be onto the campus before they get to that curved
Yeah.
part of the.
Yeah, they'll be, if they're coming down here, they'll come
Yeah,
right there.
yeah. But I'm just saying that.
But yeah,
I mean.
the gas company has that protected,
Yeah.
in case of cars.
You just continue all the way down that, I guess. I don't know
All right.
what the real
Okay.
answer is.
So,
but I think that would probably still make it a safer path than trying to create some kind of a path through
And
this
onto the
area.
site.
Yeah.
We're really behind.
I
on
know,
that.
okay.
Are there
Thank
any,
you.
Oh, no, you're
any
good.
other
You're
further
good.
questions we can ask?
what's our next step on this though, just so we know where I'm going from here?
Are we talking for the sidewalk?
About the sidewalk, just to follow up and make sure.
Are you wanting us to get a bid on how much it's gonna cost us to expand that sidewalk, to expand the park strip from 2 feet to 3 feet? Is that what you want?
No, I just think we need to talk with the city and make sure we have an understanding of what we are doing. I don't know. What do you
No,
think?
I think, because Wendy's right, what's done is
Yeah.
done, and whatever,
And it
it
was
sounds like
done
this,
to
the
the
city did
city's
approve
code.
what we did,
Yeah,
so.
it was done to the city's
Oh,
code.
okay.
So I think at
Okay.
this point, we just have to be, we have to think of, if
How-
it is a
what
problem,
kinds
what
of
can we,
things
mitigation
would-
can we
yeah,
do moving
okay.
forward
Okay.
with that? Which maybe it is bollards, maybe it's something like that.
Okay.
But it just, this helps clarify
Okay.
between.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions for anyone up there?
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
I do think there was
Very
a
much.
question about the pre-construction costs that
Yes.
several board members had about that amount. So, I don't wanna speak for you guys, but.
No, should we ask those now, even though we're
Why
not
don't
on
we
that
ask
item?
them and then we'll talk about we'll talk about it further later.
Okay.
Also.
Since they're here.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna be talking about just pre-construction costs and
Okay.
delays, right? So I think, I just wanted more clarity around kind of what those pre-construction costs are and like what that looks like when there was a delay on getting you the plans, right, for the school. And trying to understand that timeline and incurring those costs. That's my question.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Dave Anderson. I'm the Senior Vice President of the company, and I run all of our pre-construction, so I kind of lived this with George
Yeah.
for a long time. But just to kind of paint the picture, our normal pre-construction will run 3 or 4 months-ish, you know, on a, say, an elementary school. And then usually there's a couple of estimates. There's one early in schematics, which is more or less from the pictures. We'll run an original or an initial number, and then once the plans are about 50% along, we'll run another one, you know, just to see if we're tracking for budget, and then we bid it out. So there's kind of three main steps to that process, and like I said, that takes about 4 months. This one, it probably took us about 6 months-ish to get to the first step for the estimate, or for the first bid. And actually we did, that was a site package, so for all those walls and everything you see there. So we bid that one out. So that was one bid. And then we went on into phase 2, which was the rest of the building. So that was a little more than normally we do, but we weren't worried about it at that point. And so we bid the rest out then in December, and at that point, then it was over square footage, cost was high, and we give estimates during the whole time, so cost was known, you know, before we bid it out-ish. Then we bid it and get the real number.
Right.
So at that point, then it was decided to redesign it. And so that was, I think, about a 3-month process, I think, for redesign.
January to March.
Yeah, and then during that time, all the subs that we had from the initial bid, George did a good job of kind of keeping those guys reined in, you know, and on board. And then once we had the redesign drawings, then they went to work and really rebidding the job, you know, trying to rein in the costs and get everything down. And so that process went on till we got a GMP signed, I think, in August.
Yeah, it was about an 8-month process from that initial bid. Yeah, we were constantly doing, like, trying to VE. We're trying to get it into the price range through several methods. One being a redesign and reducing the amount of square footage, because previously we had tried to get down to a closer budget to where you guys wanted to be, and we didn't know, like, from the get-go, like, that this was only really supposed to be kind of an 85,000. I mean, because the architect, we were just kind of taking the lead from the architect, and it ended up being a little bit, over 100,000 square feet, and kind of then that's when Derek had kind of taken over just a little bit, and then that was brought to light, and so that created, you know, I mean, there was really no way through that initial estimate and budget that we could get down, and so that's why we ended up, you know, doing a complete redesign. And so we spent a long time, 8 months, trying to just value engineer things, trying to come up with, you know, solutions that we could still move forward with the project.
Yeah.
So, and those pre-construction costs, and I don't know if those were actually quite a bit higher than what we're presenting to the board, I guess, at this time.
Originally showing at 235,000 or
yes.
136,000.
136,000, yeah.
Well, for the first phase of it, the first round, we were a little over 100, I think, and for the second go-round, we were about 140-ish.
Yeah.
So when I saw the numbers, I just thought I've just got to try to ask to get some money for the blood loss, you know. And I think when we met with Devin and you guys, we kind of settled in on, we were hoping to maybe recoup if we could get 75,000 of that, which is about a quarter of those costs-ish is kind of how we came about that. So I don't know, we just feel like we worked really hard to get here.
Yes.
And we would just like a little help if we could get
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I mostly just clarity for
Yeah.
myself, because
Yeah.
I don't know all these things when I'm looking at
Yeah,
stuff. So
and it's a
I
lot of
really
money,
appreciate it.
you know, we understand
Yeah, I
that,
just
you
wanted
know,
to ask the question.
big pot of money, but we're into it about $250,000, and we'd love to get $70,000 a year.
Thank you.
Like Christmas.
Well, I appreciate the clarity too,
Yeah.
because when I looked at the thing, I'm like, for one meeting, it's $75,000
Oh,
for one
no,
meeting,
no,
but
no, no.
hearing you
No.
explain
No.
it,
Yeah.
like, I'm like, we're not paying $75,000.
Yeah, it was like an eight-month long process, and even prior to that, it's probably a little more extensive than
Yeah.
what we would have normally done on
Yeah,
it.
and we
on
have
a normal.
probably averaged 3 to 4 people working on it continually for that amount of time. So it's salaries, that's really just salaries,
No,
that's what it is.
and it sounds like doing work initially to get it down, and then it's like, no, we can't even from 100,000 square foot
Yes,
down to
accurate.
the
Yeah,
80,000,
so
which is
it-
more in line with what we were wanting.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And that's through the architect, but you're getting that directions on that.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
those plans.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
well, thank you guys.
Anything else?
Does anyone have any more questions, or is it just me?
Okay, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming.
We're gonna, we're gonna slip out.
Yes,
you're fine.
Well, I don't know why you don't want to stay to talk about policy. That's crazy.
All right, we have several items of policy review coming up, and we'll just go ahead and go through them one at a time, and we'll start with the cell phone policy. Jennifer?
Okay, I think I can be relatively quick on this unless you have lots of questions. So not a lot has changed since our last board meeting, so we still have our draft policy up on the website, but we're kind of holding on moving forward on that. And this month we're going to put together some committees. Wendy's going to work on that. That includes administrators, some teachers, and some parents to kind of work through what our policy and procedures would look like, especially some nuances like how do we address smartwatches and things like that. We're also going to survey parents and teachers. Caleb's going to work on a survey for us on that. And then we'll have results of that back, so that by the time we have our September 27th board all-day meeting, we can discuss what has come back to us and what we want the policy to really look like, any adjustments we want to make from our current draft, and then we would go to board meeting beginning of October with our first reading of that policy. Meg and I have been we worked on a document of talking points that we want to share with our parent leaders in our schools, and Caleb's team's working on putting that in a format that looks good.
Yeah, they'll have it ready by September 1st.
Okay, perfect. And so then we'll be able
We're
to share
not
it with.
releasing that until after the survey's been done, right? Because we don't wanna affect the results of the survey.
So what it is right now is, it is kind of our why we're even talking about a cell phone policy, our rationale behind doing that, summarizing what the current draft is, and having some FAQs about that and the projected timeline and some resources that they could look at, for research and stuff. Yes, Mitch?
Is this cell phone policy that you're talking about different from the one that was just like put into Provo High today? Is it different from one, or is it the same one?
This is something we're planning to enact across the entire district. So what you have at Provo High is Provo High's cell phone policy. We're talking about putting something in across the entire district so it's consistent everywhere. So, yes and no.
I did notice that Provo High did just, implement something, and, we don't know exactly what ours is gonna look like, but it seems from what I read of their policy that it would probably be very similar about, no phones during class time, so that we can have focused learning time, right? That's kind of what we've talked about as a board. So exactly what does that look like? How do we enforce that? Those are the things we're still trying to determine, Lisa.
Yeah, when you were talking about the committee that you want to put together, is there a chance our student board members could be on that committee? Because I do think we need student voice throughout the process.
I also was gonna ask if I'm taking this cell phone report I almost said Dixon, to the Shoreline Community Council tomorrow, and if people are interested in being on that committee, how is that gonna fit?
Send those names to Daryl and Jared.
Okay,
that would be awesome.
Just going back to Terry's concern, I think part of the reason we decided to have some talking points was because when we talked to people, they were saying, I need something to look at to give you feedback,
And that's
right?
what that is. It's like, here, these are what our thoughts are, this is the rationale, here's what the current draft policy looks like, what do you think of that? As opposed to saying, give us feedback. It's like,
Tell us
to
what you
kinda guide
think.
people, like to have, they can think about
What do you think of
feedback they
this?
have.
What do you like? What do you not like?
And our plan is to share that proactively with our PTA and school community council parents, but then they, of course, can help share that more widely.
Shauna was talking about she's gonna set up different media for being able to share that information. So there will be a place on the website so people can access all of that on the website. And there will be basically like a trifold pamphlet so you can have a hard copy of information. So she's gonna create some different ways in which to put all of that together.
So how does somebody, like a parent wants to be on this committee, how do they contact, who do they contact?
The principal?
Yeah, that's a great idea. They could just contact
Or
the
if you know
principal.
about them, then we can
We just
let
send it to Daryl and
Daryl
Jared.
or Jared.
I would love to hear what Provo's policy is as you understand it and how you felt like it was received today. I know it's one day, but I'd love to hear it.
I actually did ask around about
Yeah.
how kids felt. So most of the kids, it was pretty split evenly. There was either like you either hated it and thought it was evil, or like you kind of like saw through and kind of like saw how good this would do. But a lot of kids thought like, cause it's the first step of just having your phone out in class is it's confiscated and it's gone to the office and you pick it up at the end of the school day. A lot of kids were maybe hoping for maybe a warning, at least just one warning, and then you can take that next step to confiscating the phone.
Okay.
And then a lot of the other kids were like, just leave it up to the teachers. Like they were saying like, it's just the kid who, like if the kid wants to be on their phone, like that, it's their learning. But I feel like the problem with that is like sometimes other kids don't know what's like good for them, like cause I like just thinking back, there's things I thought were like that were good for me back when I was younger that looking back I'm like like just kind of embarrassed about. And so I feel like it's our place to just put the students in a best position to learn, and then leave the rest up to them.
Okay, that's really great, thank you. So the policy sounds like it's no phones out in any class throughout the day.
Yes.
During passing time.
During
and
passing
lunch.
periods, lunch, you're allowed to have it
Okay.
out, but once the bell rings, it's gone.
And when the phone is confiscated, is that the teacher confiscating the phone, or does an administrator come? Does anyone know how that
I don't
works?
know. It says it goes down to the office though, is what the policy says.
Right, but
I'm
does the
guessing-
student
I'm
walk
guessing-
their phone to
I'm
the office,
guessing
or?
it's the teacher
Yeah.
that takes it to the office, or they call
Okay.
an administrator to come
Okay.
get it.
Thank you.
That's all I have on
I
that.
have to, not to be a Debbie Downer on any of this, but how serious is the state legislature in
It's-
implementing?
It's filed, the bill is filed, it's ready to go.
So if we do all this work, it's just gonna be like override question.
No, so the state law says no cell phones K through 12 bell to bell, period. It gives any LEA the right to make it less restrictive if they have an academic reason or a rationale for why they're doing so, but that needs to be clearly stated. So a school could say during passing time or at lunch, you could have access to your
Medical
phone,
reasons.
you know, medical reasons, you're gonna have it, you know, different pieces like that, but it leaves those exceptions up to the district to determine that. So we asked that question of, I think it's Senator Fillmore that did the
It's
bill,
his
right?
bill,
It's
yeah.
his bill. He came and spoke with all of the superintendents, and that was the question that we had, is that several school districts already have pretty stringent cell phone policies, and wanted to know if they were gonna be required to be more stringent. And he said, no, we're just starting with the most restrictive so that you could just blame it on the legislature if you just wanted to get rid of phones unilaterally. There's quite a bit of research that's now showing that kids shouldn't have phones during passing time or at lunchtime either. But that's a harder sell. I think the harder thing is gonna be to deal with the watches. I think that's gonna be a rough go.
Go ahead.
I think as I continue to think about this too, I think we're focusing, right, what kind of learning environment do we want for a kid? As I do want to, I personally want to be mindful, I think any new technology, historically, there's like this moral panic about our kids, when I think the conversation's always more nuanced than that, and I don't want to get caught up in that, if that makes sense. So, which I think, anyway, I just wanted to say that, and I think that's why there is a nuance to this conversation, and yeah, maybe passing time, that is going to be allowed, right?
Yeah.
So.
Also, I just feel like, I like the discussion of what we do want in our learning environments, as well as what we don't want. We don't want distractions, but also, I hope we won't stop the conversation there. I hope we'll continue this conversation around what engages learners in a high school classroom. Because sometimes the student's on their phone because otherwise they're going to watch Kung Fu Panda. And I mean, that's an overstatement. I'm sure that doesn't happen very often. But I'm just saying, I would like to also talk about ways to engage our learners and look at the length of our class periods and our expectations for our teachers and our learners in that space, and make sure that we really are enhancing their learning environment. I know that the phone can be and is a distraction, but I'd love to then put more focus on what we do want to have in those classrooms in terms of learning environment.
I think this kind of goes to something I addressed in our teacher kickoff meeting too, though, and that is you're seeing teachers trying to manage, in particular, the fact that students are absent so much, and how much they have to reteach and refigure out how to get that learning into the hands of kids, and we have parents that really expect that you're going to recreate that. We need to be okay with telling teachers you don't have to recreate what's happening in the classroom, and I think then you can start to create that expectation of that rigor's got to return back to where it was before, but a teacher can't maintain that level of intensity and then deal with 35% of their kids gone every day and trying to recreate those really awesome lessons. And so we have to figure out that piece as well, because I do think there's kind of this cyclical thing that's occurring here. I'm not sure what is causing what, but all of those pieces come together.
There are
so.
kids who don't go to class because they can
Yep.
just do it on
Yep,
campus.
that's exactly right.
So if they know
Yep.
they have to be there,
Yep.
it'll help
Yep,
some.
it will. So. Okay.
All right, cool. Great. Next policy review is the updated sensitive materials policy.
Do you want to do it, Doug? Do you want me to do it? What do you want?
How do you want to control the timing? Because I think that you guys are really working on.
Yes, we are. We're gonna go really fast.
So I'll
So
be able to answer
he's gonna be available to answer questions. So we kind of already went through this policy in June, but we wanted to make sure that we made a clarification that there's basically 3 policies that guide all of this. So in 4020 is the adoption of our curricular materials, and so when we're adopting, say, ELA curriculum, what does that look like? 4021 is all about library materials. We now need a new policy that just talks about instructional materials in general and sensitive materials in general. And this policy will then be referenced in 4020 and 4021. So this becomes kind of the sensitive materials policy, although we're not calling it that. So next slide.
So do we need to, update 4020 and 40?
Yes, we will, and that'll be part of the recommendation that comes up here, so.
Okay.
And we talked about this in the last board meeting, that there is a distinction now between objective sensitive material and subjective sensitive material. If it's objective, it immediately gets pulled. And correct me if I'm saying anything wrong, if it's a subjective sensitive material, that's when it's gonna go to a review committee that has parents and community members, and then they kind of go through a series of, like a rubric to determine if it's sitting at that level. Next slide. Then in the procedure itself is where all of the specific steps are laid out, and I appreciated all of the definitions that went into this. Age appropriate, what do we mean by instructional material? Please note that guest speakers, assemblies, are part of instructional materials. It isn't just what a teacher is bringing into a classroom that's, handed out. Defining what is happening in a school setting, so not just the classroom, but it goes beyond that. And then subjective sensitive material. Next slide. Also, we talked about in the policy that now district employees can initiate a review and a current Board of Education member. Before it was only a student and a parent, or a parent of a student enrolled in the district. Next slide. And then this was the flow chart. Kind of goes through, really, if it's objective, it's that material is getting pulled immediately while it's happening. It's not available for checkout, even if the parent is saying, I want my child to have access to it. When it's going through subjective sensitive materials, while that review process is happening, a parent can still access that for their child if they want to. Next slide. We talked about it's not based on the whole of the work. Next slide. And then this review process occurs if it doesn't pass that objective test, then we go into this sensitive material, this subjective sensitive material process. Next slide. After the review process, if it is determined to contain sensitive materials, the material is inaccessible to student even if parent consent has been provided. We have to report it to USBE. There is a reporting tool. And if it is determined not to contain sensitive materials, the material returns to circulation and accessibility. And whoever initiated the review process then has a right to the full report of what that looks like. So, and would likely be reviewed in a study session, probably. So, yeah. Next slide. If you want an appeal, comes directly to the Board of Education, and you vote in a public meeting as to whether or not to uphold the decision of that particular committee. So that's awesome. Okay, next slide. We've talked about, we just had an instance where we've had, 13 titles that have just been ordered by the state school board to be removed, just so that none of those titles are in any of our schools. So you do have 10 school days to remove the materials, and you follow your surplusing procedure. So Lisa, you had asked the question of, like, what happens, and so you have to actually follow your district surplusing process. Now, next slide, we probably need to talk about, we need to add that specifically so that, because that's not in the procedure, I think we have that in the policy, but I think it would be good to add that to the procedure, and then we need to discuss as a district leadership team, if a teacher has purchased that book with their own money and it's a part of their classroom library, we need to clarify with the state if that my understanding is the teacher can just take that title home because it technically belongs to them. I just want to make sure it doesn't have to go through this other process, because we have to verify that it's not in any classroom library, that it's not anywhere in any of our schools.
The only guideline we have is it can't be sold or given to students or minors.
Yes, that's
That's the
right.
guideline.
So I'm sure the teacher could just take it home at that point. But if it is purchased with school district money, then it has to go through the surplusing process, and we have to document how that happens, so. Next slide. So our recommendation is to just place it, I would place it on the website for public feedback. Doug mentioned to me that this one technically doesn't go into effect until September 1st. And so they're giving us a little bit of time, but I think it would be good for the public to be able to see that it's matching with the legislation. Like, we could even pair up what the legislation is with the policy to show them, because we literally took this straight from the model policy that the state provided, which they finally did in July, and then we put it on the agenda for August 27th. Okay. Any questions? All right.
That's great. Thank
Next.
you. Thank you, Doug. Okay, next policy reviews, disclosures, and financial conflicts of interest.
Oh, I thought it was electronic.
I
Maybe
think
keep
so.
going.
Oh, I
it
skipped
is.
one.
Okay, good. I was like, I thought it was the
I was getting ahead of myself, sorry. You're good. It is electronic meeting procedures.
Okay, so we updated this with the new code from last legislative session. Some of the main things was they changed the wording of the primary location is an anchor location now. We needed to add to our policy the definition for an electronic meeting, so it's a meeting that any of us might attend electronically. So even if just one of us joins over Zoom, then it's considered an electronic meeting. And one thing to be aware of in the policy, we already had in our policy that if one of us needs an electronic meeting, we had that we must request at least 3 days prior. The law just says it's up to the board to have a policy in place, but it is required that the link is sent to all the members of the board at least 24 hours before the meeting. So we need to have enough notice of that.
So what happens, like, if somebody's sick? Like, you can't keep showing
You have to be sick 24 hours ahead of time.
That's a great question.
Yeah, we've had last minute addition, like electronic.
There's like,
things
yeah,
where
something might come up.
The law says at least 24 hours before the meeting.
Yeah, do we want to list every single meeting as an electronic meeting then?
We kind of already do by having it on
By having it on
YouTube.
YouTube, it technically already is.
Maybe we should just do that
Okay.
just to ensure we are.
Maybe we need to, maybe I'll ask some clarifying questions about
But
whether or not that.
but on YouTube, like, if for instance, if I were at home because I'm sick watching on YouTube, I can't comment or make like a vote via YouTube.
That's why if we list it as an electronic meeting, then we don't have to worry about that, right? So maybe we just list them all as electronic meetings. I mean, is there any harm in listing it as one and not having it end up?
I don't feel like there was a penalty listed, like if you say it's gonna be an electronic meeting and then somebody doesn't participate
No.
electronically, there's nothing about that,
So the code says a public body that conducts an electronic meeting shall, except as otherwise provided in the rule of the legislature applicable to the public body, at least 24 hours before the electronic meeting is scheduled to begin, provide each member of the public body a description of how to connect to the meeting. So I don't know the difference in code between shall and must. but
Shall is you have
it
to.
is-
It is, you
a must.
absolutely
Okay.
have to.
So are they saying we have to let the public know how to get on YouTube or that?
No,
we
that's
have
the
to
body.
let-
The
just
body.
that.
The
So
body.
with, oh.
It basically, I think what it's trying to do is you can't leave any one of us out of the opportunity
think
to
that's
be
the- yeah.
in an electronic meeting, right? That all members will get that link at least 24 hours before.
So do we just need to have a link available
Yeah,
for every
we can.
meeting just in case? And then
Oh,
maybe
fun.
possibly never use it?
Yeah, sure.
Is that an option?
Okay, well, and I had left in the policy the 3 days and just changed it to a, you should let, give notice 3 days, but I changed it from a must in case things come up, which we talked about, so. And then there were some things we just took from the code exactly about, some of the rules with calling a emergency where there isn't really an anchor location, and the board president has to declare why that is, and if it's for health or safety risks, then that declaration expires 30 days after you make it. So, any questions about it?
There was just one on line 57. It says the board may hold an electronic meeting without an anchor location if all members of the board. My question was, all members, does that mean quorum, or do all 7 of us have to actually be attending?
No, that means all of us would be online.
Right.
Because it means no anchor location.
But does that mean all 7 of us have to be online, or can just a quorum meet online? That's my question.
For that meeting or something.
Yeah, it's like, say I couldn't make it, but Meg can make it. Can you still meet offline?
What line is that?
57. It uses the word all members, so that was my question.
Or quorum of members.
Or would it be better to say it goes along as a quorum?
Well, as long as, I think the problem with saying
all members who are attending.
Right, if all attending members
All attending,
Yeah.
are attending, that's a lot of attending.
Yeah.
But I'm
That's
just
why
saying,
like,
I don't think if you say just a quorum there though, it would imply that maybe 3 people would meet here, and that, the point of that, I think, is to say, if no one is meeting at an anchor location, then, do you know what I'm saying?
Right, I just wanted to make clear though that if somebody can't attend, they're still okay
Right.
to meet off.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, as long as you have a quorum.
As long as you have a quorum.
I think your same meeting rules apply as if you're in person. It's just, we're now making it an electronic.
With no physical anchor location.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to look at the code, but yeah. We took that link
I could just-
from the model policy.
It is from the model policy, so.
Who, yeah, from the USDA.
That was really the only
That's a good-
one where I was
good
like.
question.
The word all means all of us have to be there.
Any other questions on 8? On item number 8, electronic meeting procedures? Okay, item number 9, disclosures and financial conflicts of interest for real this time.
Okay, so, our original intent was to look at policy 1600 regarding code of ethics for board members, and then upon further examination, we decided that a separate policy would be preferable just to talk about conflicts of interest in general. Next slide.
Sorry, I kind of put it there.
Oh, sorry. So we will add a reference to policy 1630 in policy 1600 if you choose to adopt policy 1630. Under obligations, there's a line where it talks about the board members will commit to avoid any conflict of interest, and we'll say see policy 1630 to reference that specifically in there. It just kind of makes sense. Next slide. There's basically 3 sections in conflicts of interest, and by the way, all school district employees also have to follow this. So there's about access to information, accepting gifts, compensation, and loans, and receiving compensation for assisting in transactions that are tied to the school district. So next slide. So basically, don't use information for personal gain or for your friend's personal gain or for a family member's personal gain or to secure special privileges or exemptions. And then also being careful not to accept employment that impedes your judgment or interferes with your ethical performance. Please don't ask me what that might be. I probably could think of an example, but anyway, next slide. Do not accept gifts or compensation that may influence decisions or as a reward for specific actions. Of course, you can receive a gift not exceeding $50 in value, or if you're being publicly recognized for your service, you absolutely can receive that. That's the same for employees. Next slide. Board members can't receive compensation for assisting any person or business in a transaction involving the district unless a sworn written statement is provided. So just recognizing that there might be a conflict of interest. So like if your spouse owns a business and you're in a procurement process, then we have to disclose that to the public so that they're aware of it. Next slide. Those disclosure statements are posted and filed usually between January 1st and January 31st. They have to be made available on the district's website the entire time the board member is a board member. Next slide. Recommendation, just approve this as a separate policy in the business meeting. I don't know that it needs a lot of comment. This is pretty typical. This is what we all agree to as employees as well. Teachers and principals and all of us are part of this thing. So. Questions?
I just have one. When talking about employment, does this include board members being substitute teaching in the district?
No, I don't think so.
I would okay. I just wanted to make sure.
No, I wouldn't see it as that. I would see like employment that might, I don't know what.
If you were working for a competing company that provided substitute teachers that we weren't using, and you lobbied for that, that could be a conflict of interest.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great example, Devin. Nice. Okay, next policy. Policy 7140, surveys and data collection. So this is a revision to the current policy. So this isn't a new policy. It's just to align with state law. So you'll notice that I believe in this policy I added a lot of blue ink to it. So all the blue is all the new. So so that will help you remember. It requires that all non-academic surveys have to now be opt-in. It used to be that you could just kind of notify that we're doing this and then a parent had to go in and opt out. Now it's the opposite. Parent permission is required. Parents have to be able to preview the survey items at least 2 weeks prior, and you have to give them notice 2 weeks prior. And surveys that fall in this category of a non-academic survey have to have approval from the district leadership team. I'm just going to have, like if a teacher was doing this or a school was doing this, they would take it up through Daryl or Jared, and then they would take it to the MTSS team, and the MTSS team would approve that particular survey. So next slide. And I called it the district leadership team because if you get a different superintendent that decides not to call it MTSS, then they identify who that district leadership team would be. So copy of the survey items, and then training to the staff on the survey requirements. I actually got stopped at Provo High and was asked some questions about this. So we're going to create a little training video that the principals can use and just show in a faculty meeting as to what that might look like, so that because teachers were concerned that they couldn't like survey their kids at the end of a unit to find out what strategies had worked the best. And I said, no, that's an academic survey. You're talking about instruction. That's completely appropriate. So we just want to make sure that we provide that clarification. Next slide. We do provide notice at registration for any survey that's related to anything that's tied to our early warning systems, to any social and emotional learning or school climate surveys. There can be no rewards or penalties tied to survey participation. Next slide. So our option 1 is approve the policy, and I put with one adjustment on line 21 of the policy. It says all surveys. I would change it to all non-academic surveys because I don't want, like if a teacher really is seeking that feedback, I think it's so great that they're doing that. They won't do that if they have to run it all the way up through district leadership. That would just be mind-boggling. Option 2, we could publish the draft, leave for comment until the October 27th board meeting, and approve at the 27th board meeting with any necessary adjustments. It really is following, we just took this straight from the state model policy, and it falls in line with legislation, so it's up to you what you would like to do there. Next slide. Oh. Okay, that's it.
Questions, anyone?
Any questions?
I
Yes,
just
Gina.
have one, and maybe we don't need to do it here, but I noticed when I read over it, I was trying to pull it up but couldn't find it. Line 26, it says anyone wishing to complete a survey, but when I hear complete, I feel like that means I'm going to fill out the survey, so maybe administer a survey instead of complete.
Okay, perfect.
Does that make sense? That's
Yep.
just
Yep. No, thank you.
I read that and was like, that's going to get confusing, so
No,
that's the only
thank
thing
you
I have.
very much.
I have a question.
You bet.
So for the student gov, I know that we want to do surveys for like school dances, school activities. Would that be academic?
It's totally fine. So there's a list in the procedures as to all the questions you can't ask.
Okay.
So let me look at it. Like you
No,
cannot, you
yeah.
can't say, are you a Republican or a Democrat?
Oh.
Like that's not allowed. Do you have social and emotional issues? Do you take medication for depression? You're not going to be asking
But
those
the
kinds
student
of
doesn't
stuff.
have to go through this process.
student government would still wanna have it approved, cause students are not allowed to administer surveys, but that would go through like Cassidy Baker,
Yeah.
your student government advisor. So she's the one that's actually administering the survey. But as long as, so it says right here, prior written consent, if it's asking any of these questions, those types of questions would not fall under that.
But it is a non-academic survey, right? So technically, she does need to, I mean, Cassidy would need to, I'm
To get
just
it
checking, I mean, I didn't read this understanding that a teacher could read that list of things and decide whether or not they could administer a survey that wasn't academic. But maybe that's what you're saying.
That's what I would really prefer to say, because
Okay.
I don't want MTSS
What's
to have to
the-
review
right.
every single student government survey that
No,
goes out.
I-
So I do think there has to be, so if we need to make an adjustment in the procedure, to state that it needs to go through that piece of it.
Or must
but-
hit these survey requirements
Mhm.
or whatever. Okay.
Cause they're not asking those
Right.
questions to me. So, and it's this part of information that's important.
I'm just thinking about the words in the policy that were like all non-academic surveys.
So maybe
So,
we
just clarify that then, so
we
they
do
know.
like our first reading today,
Yep, let's
and
do
then
that,
have
and then
a
let's-
couple
yep,
weeks
yep.
to.
I like that.
My question is not related to this policy specifically, but have we already implemented this of the opt-in part? Like, I registered my child on PowerSchool and I never had a button that I said, yes, I agree to survey. Is that just in the list of, I've read through all these policies?
I thought we had added that.
That's the way we talked about it back in May, was to be designed as being, I hope there was a different look. I haven't followed up on this conversation since May.
I didn't see it either when I went through ours.
But
I
it
think I
was
did see
intended
it.
to kind of give you like short
remember
summary
thinking, oh,
statements of
survey
the
question
things you're
on it.
complying to, the ability to click a link and take you to more information. That was the way that that's where I'd left that back in May with the team. So
We'll
I
make
can't
sure.
speak to
Look
what
at that.
people's experiences are right now.
Yeah, I think I did see that when I did my kids' PowerSchool.
Okay.
Because I saw where you click a link, to go read more about the surveys.
I think we need to make sure it's very obvious what people are clicking and agreeing to, especially if this has been a big thing from the legislature and in the news. We wanna make sure people know what they clicked.
Well, the other piece of this is that any survey that's asking for any of those types of information, just clicking that link is not enough. There has to be an additional permission form that goes out with the survey questions. So
Yeah.
they would not be surveyed on any of those things. Even if they had clicked that and said, yes, I want to, you still have to go out and get, like for the SHARP survey or whatever, you would still have to get an additional permission tied to that. So, but I agree.
I think generally for our registration for next year, I would prefer to see, cause right now what I saw, it just lists a bunch of different, like I'm agreeing to the tech use policy and, the library use, you know, those kinds of things, and it's just a list, and you don't even have to click on that you've read them, right? And so you just say, yeah, I agree. But if we at least had checkbox for each individual item, even if we don't require them to go click on it, then it's a little more intentional. Like, yes, I agree to tech use, yes, I agree to surveys, yes,
I'm on there right now. I haven't done it.
I know, I'm
much
trying
already.
to.
there you go.
Oh my gosh.
I did mine. I did all of mine.
But, no, like all it, you don't have to, like, it shows which ones you're supposed to read, and then you can just agree to it.
But what if you don't wanna opt into the survey, but you do wanna agree to the tech one, like we don't have it.
Yeah.
It's not listed as a separate one.
Yeah.
So you're saying for each one of the policies, we should have to say yes or no on each of these?
I think so.
Yeah, because that's your
Especially the
consent
survey one.
to each
Yeah.
one.
Can I ask another clarifying question that has nothing to do with this policy? When you go in to register, do you have to do that for each child, or does it transfer your answers for each child to that?
It transferred answers.
Okay, good, cause I'm like, I only have one month.
Cause I was worried every year, I'm like, oh, am I gonna be typing all this stuff
Okay.
for each one?
It transfers your info, but don't you still have to
Okay,
click
click
I
on it.
agree for each individual
Yeah, you still have to
student
like
at
review
the
each
end?
page. It doesn't
Yeah.
just like do it automatically, but all the information's inputted,
Like
and
your
then I just go
emergency
down and
contacts
hit submit to go
transfer.
to the next page.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, we can.
All right, Jared, you're up. Next slide.
Okay, I'd like to review 2 drafts of policies related to kindergarten that came out of new state law. The first one is related to kindergarten readiness, and that parents need to now certify that their child is toilet trained prior to enrollment. Unless it's part of a disability, that's documented in either an IEP or through a 504 plan. Go ahead, Bonnie. It defines what toilet training is, and
We don't need to go
we don't need to go through that one. Let's go through the next one.
You got it.
If they're not trained, there's an opportunity for us to determine if there is a disability, or in the policy it allows for our schools to provide support services to the family in an effort to resolve the matter. There is a difference between an accident and not being toilet trained, and if there's a pattern, a student can be excluded until we resolve that, and the school would work with the family to reintegrate the student back into classes again. Go ahead, Bonnie. So again, parents confirm at the time of registration, whether that's through a form or digital procedure that's in place at each school right now, and we want to formalize that into a digital through the registration process for next year. And again, it reviews the potential school supports that can be in place in our procedure that we have here. So go ahead. And again, we will provide training for all of our school-based as well as district-based people so that they know how to work with families if this need arises. And again, there's a form that is now available that is part of this, the documents that you have that we would then implement with our procedure moving forward.
Next slide is probably duplicate.
Okay.
No,
and the second policy is related to kindergarten admission, the idea of...
Wait, do you have any questions though on toilet training? Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay, it's more of a, well, I guess questions for the rest of the board. So kindergarten readiness is the title of our policy. And to me that indicates like all the ways we're ready for kindergarten, like what do we know, and really this is about the line under it, kindergarten student toilet training. So I would think I'd prefer to just see the title of the policy be the kindergarten student toilet training, but what do
You got it. I really didn't like the idea of me calling a policy toilet training, so that's why I changed it. So I'll move it back. That was just a unilateral decision that I made. You're good. 3170.
Oh, that's
No, I
one of
agree.
7.
Yeah. Because kindergarten readiness means everything.
Yeah.
And this isn't everything.
Yeah.
I also had a question about Sunrise does allow students.
Sunrise is
But that's not
preschool,
school.
it's not kindergarten.
But they do have kindergarten.
No,
they don't.
So, you mean,
Because we had a neighbor who went to kindergarten at Sunrise.
I think at one time.
so it would have been Provo Peaks they were going
Not
to.
special ed. No, they have a special ed
Same
preschool
location.
for kindergarten.
Yeah, and they were only going twice a week, like Sunrise.
But
And
I think that was housed
that
under
would be
Provo
different because that's going to fall under special ed anyway.
Yeah.
So they would just need to write that specifically into the IEP. If the student needed support with that, then they would just write it into it.
I just have one more question about this toilet one. Have we had kindergarten teachers look at this?
No, it's just
No.
state law. We just
State
ran
law?
it, it just
Okay.
came through
We got
state
one
law,
policy,
and so
Okay.
just implemented, and here we are.
Does everybody else
Well,
okay
one thing
changing the
about
name
the
or-
readiness though, I mean, sure, I don't think though we preclude anyone from starting kindergarten. There are no real readiness parameters. When
That's
you're
correct.
ready for kindergarten at 5,
Yeah.
you go. So it does seem like the potty training is the one readiness marker that's different than what we already do, right?
The only thing I can see by keeping a kindergarten readiness is if we need to add more to the policy.
At a later time.
At a later time. Like, can you open your lunch by yourself?
Like kindergarten toilet readiness.
Can you insert
That's like
please
right, like are we
install
saying
or
you can't come to
not?
kindergarten because you don't know your ABCs? We don't.
No, we don't.
We don't know how to socialize.
That would be a third grade readiness policy.
What's the name of the statute in the state? What's it called? Toilet training?
I'm fine with kindergarten readiness
No,
because
I
this
thought
is
it
the
was called
only
kindergarten ready. I thought they
readiness
aligned it with.
exclusion.
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
all called it the toilet training, but
I
because
know.
kindergarten readiness doesn't help us know what it's about. I don't know, I just.
How about toilet
like-
readiness?
I like to.
Potty readiness?
Be more specific.
I like to look at the title of the policy and know what it's gonna be about before I'm like clicking on it, right? And, or if I'm trying to look up something, you want it to be easy to, where is that one about the toilet training requirement? I don't know.
Kindergarten toilet training requirements?
I'd be happy to
We can
follow
fine with
whatever
whatever
you
you
would
work on
like.
the
Yeah, it
language
doesn't
of
really
it.
matter, yeah.
But we're looking at voting on this today, correct?
I think it would be great if we could just get this one done.
Yes,
Agreed.
I
Because
think
we've already made it a requirement, so it's already gone into effect that we're making parents confirm that, that they're ready to go. The actual bill is called School and Classroom Amendments. You're welcome. I thought
That does not help
kindergarten
me.
readiness was pretty good.
That's better.
All right, go ahead, Jared.
The second policy is related to half-day kindergarten. Again, this comes out of legislation where half-day options are still available to parents, and though as a school district we provide all-day options, parents can select a half-day option. This policy outlines the parameters for that. To make it amenable to a half-day request, we will work to engineer the schedule such that students can receive their core instruction during a half-day session. That doesn't mean a parent can request that happen in the morning or in the afternoon. But we would offer, in our schools currently, all of them offer a morning option. The law also spells out that we are supposed to make that available to parents at registration. We let them know of that. There are still single-digit numbers, just for your information, that are used right now. Go ahead, Bonnie. In addition to providing the half-day sessions, we'll also provide additional resources for those who don't participate in the full-day session. If the number of requests reaches the number of 18, then a school is required, a policy that states that we'll provide a half-day option. We'll call it a half-day option, and it will be built and advertised that way to attract families as well as even educators that want to be a part of a half-day program. Go ahead, Bonnie.
I put this in here because I knew that Terry was going to read it and it didn't make sense. So I wanted to change the lines 38 to 39 to read, if a student struggles excessively, the elementary school will engage in the child find process collaboratively with the parent to determine if the student has a disability and if additional supports are needed. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jared.
That's
The
okay.
reasoning for this is that we have some students that are really struggling to stay in school for the full day. So if we're working through that, we want to go through and make sure that the student doesn't have a disability, or is it just something that we want to collaborate with the parents, like let's start with a half-day option and then we could move up to a full day if that's what we want to do, but it would go in, we just want to have that as part of our process.
That'll be procedure, not part of the policy.
That's
itself,
correct.
actually, so.
I have a question about that. So I have heard from quite a few parents who want to do half day to start, like you're kind of saying, but maybe I was hearing someone say, maybe twice a week they'll stay all day and we'll see how they do. Would that parent enroll in full day and then just kind of not attend until they feel ready to attend full time, or would they enroll in half day and make an arrangement with the principal to extend potentially and see how they're doing? Do you know what I'm saying?
I would enroll them in full day and then have them be excused for the
Okay.
other half of the day is what I
But
would
does
do.
that
But again, a conversation with the
Okay,
school
just
administration.
individually with
That's-
their principal, they can work that
Just
out.
like this
Great.
says we'll work through challenges
Okay.
individually, a circumstance like
All
that
right.
we want to be done
Thanks.
individually.
We want to make sure that parents know that it is their choice as to whether or not their child is a half day or full day. So there are some individuals that are like, well, we as the school should get to decide that. It is the parent's choice, and then we have to work with the school if a child's really struggling. However, if we end up with a kindergartner that is really creating some safety concerns because of behavior, then we would take that through our district process, and that would go through a disciplinary process to determine maybe we need to put this child into a half-day setting. That's going to be a really extreme situation, like 1 or 2 a year, maybe out of the whole district, if even that. So.
That's the last slide. Any other questions about these two policies? Our recommendation is that these were drafted.
I
So,
did.
go ahead.
Just after reading, I mean, you did a really good job of defining everything, but I remember after reading different laws being passed, they always have a definition of what a kindergartner is, and that was the one thing that was missing in both of the policies, is what exactly, it's a child who is at least 5 years old and
is potty trained.
Yes, because
Toilet
there's
trained,
state law,
not saying
you
potty.
have to be 5 years old
Right.
before you start
Correct.
kindergarten.
But I think that's already defined in our enrollment policy, so that's why in the model, that's why in the model policy they don't put it. So, all of these policies were copied, I mean, it looks like that all I did was do the procedures on them, with our cabinet. We didn't, the policies themselves came from the state. So, but if you would like us to add a definition of kindergartner,
Or
then we
even
can
the
do
legal
that.
reference
Because you
to
never
that other
know,
one.
someone
Do we have that?
gonna read it
It's in one of our
and
other policies,
It is.
right?
is gonna wanna know what the definition of a kindergarten.
Well, can't we just refer them to that? Can't we just add a little
Yep,
thing
sure.
and
Yep,
say,
yep.
look here for the definition of?
Yep.
We're actually gonna be working on building a kindergarten page on the website with all of that information on it.
That'll be good.
Okay, any other questions about this?
Can we
I
recommend
just
you
wanna say,
approve
for
it?
this half-day option, this looks exactly like what is already in practice in the school district.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
It's written down, it's just written down
Right.
now.
Yep.
And Jared, your recommendation is, sorry?
Is to approve these policies as they are based on the model policies given to us from the SVU.
So approve those tonight. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
Rebecca
Jen.
had to step out for an urgent family matter. She'll be back, so. In the meantime, Michelle Eldridge with our UELP plan.
Hi, everyone. This feels like a huge gear shift after what you've gone through on your agenda so
Toilet
far,
training, now we're
so-
talking about early learning.
Yay, academics and student learning. Okay, so this is the Utah Early Learning Plan that you have in your board docs. You approve this every year. I think we're on maybe year 6 or 7 of this. I don't know, I have to go back and double check that, but a long time. There have been some significant changes though to the law that happened in the last legislative session. So prior to this year, the Utah Early Learning Plan originally was just for literacy, and Senate Bill 157 was what guided all of that to begin with, or 127, I'm sorry. And it was all literacy focused with literacy outcomes. 4 years ago, it changed to include math outcomes for K-3, and then in the most recent legislative session, they've changed it to be math only, and still we have to have reading gains. So it got a little more complicated, and also, well, yeah, a little bit more complicated. So the state still requires third grade reading level reports, third grade reading proficiencies, but now the Utah Early Learning Plan is only math directed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So this year's plan you have in front of you includes 2 local goals, 1 required math goal, and then you have the option of the second goal being literacy or math. Our team that worked on this over the summer, looking at the 3-year longitudinal data, which you have a copy of in your folder, chose to continue with the same reading goal that we had last year, and actually one of the same math goals that we had last year. We had started towards the end of the year making very huge significant gains that you don't see on the report there because we can't represent it the same way the state requires us to on this document. But we saw some really exciting things from about, I want to say like probably February, end of February until really mid-May, that isn't reflected on the numbers, the data that you see there. It was kind of our individual tracking. So we requested with the state that we are able to keep our goals because we could prove our momentum was going really good, and we wanted to keep that going with schools and with teachers and not start something new at the beginning of the year, just like keep going with the work that we were doing. So you have in front of you our 2 local goals, 1 math and 1 reading. And then just so you know, this isn't on the plan that you approve, but the state does require a 3rd goal, which is required for all kindergarten through 3rd grade, or excuse me, 1st through 3rd for the state of Utah, which is a growth goal in math. So prior to this year, it was a reading and math growth goal required statewide. Now it's just math. 60% of students should make typical or better growth on the end of year Acadience. Now that's math. So that's not on your document because it's not part of the plan you approve. So questions that you have. Lisa.
So how does the growth goal, like I understand this math goal to be, we're gonna try not to basically have a learning loss
Correct.
between the beginning of the year and not
Correct.
and the end of the year, just
Correct.
because that's kind of where
Yep.
it's been.
Correct.
Frankly,
And
right?
you can see the
So-
trend. Yep,
Yes,
not a good
so,
trend. Yes,
so
correct.
that's, I see that that
Yes.
is actually good, hard growth to get
Yes.
there. Does that, will that meet the requirement for a growth goal? Do you know what I'm saying?
It can, yeah,
Okay.
so it should, in theory, if everyone's making their growth. So the reason why the growth goal is awesome is because it doesn't matter if you're well above or below, you all
Yeah,
should make
it's
growth,
against your own
right?
growth.
Right, so in theory, if everyone's doing that, then yes, we will also meet that.
We will also,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, so, yes. Yes.
My question is, do you have all the resources you need to make this successful?
Well, that's a great question.
Don't
didn't
you
expect
love that
question?
question?
Like, I want a happy dance with
Oh,
that one.
that's a
Sorry
good
about that.
question. I'm just curious. I just
Yeah,
wanna
me
make
too.
sure,
Um,
because these are significant. This is where the learning really begins, and we wanna make sure
Yeah.
that they're successful.
So I think I would first answer that with a thank you, and that is for one, the new structure of the organization with including instructional coaches at every school.
Mhm.
So that is one huge support that we didn't have before. We were working with, I mean, maybe half in the schools that could help with the tier one. So one of these goals is what we call a tier one goal. And that really, the instructional coach piece will really help us to really be better at that, more strategic in that. The second thing that will really help us this year, cautiously optimistic, is our Power School modules. So one of the reasons that we kind of struggled with being able to really target the right students with these goals is because we don't have a data system that helps us easily be able to pull the data long term. We have to do it all by hand. So so the Power School modules will help us be able to do that and look at the students faster and longer and quicker and be able to move a little bit faster. Those aren't all working yet, so I'm really optimistic about moving ahead, and even without those two things, last year from like March to May, we started making really good traction. So, I mean, I would say no, of course not, there's always more resources we need, obviously, it's education, right? But I feel like we're in a really good place to keep things going and maybe move a little bit faster.
Do you feel like you have a sense of some of the, like, is there data to help answer the question of why?
Yes, yeah, we have really good data on
You need
that.
to tell them about the teachers that were actually following and targeted the students and the kind of
Okay.
growth that was happening there, because I think that's really
Pretty
telling.
remarkable.
Yeah.
So what we did in the math part of our goal last year, we actually did it in reading too, just a little bit differently, is we had Nate pull longitudinal data by student, not just by first grade, but not by grades in schools. We had him pull it by student and look at all of the students who didn't make growth that didn't have any risk factors. So not students with disability, not ML, not any of those what we would call a risk factor. We took all of those kiddos out and said, who should have made growth that doesn't have this demographic sort of risk factor? And then we took it to teachers and said, okay, you have these students coming to you from these one or two other grades. It wasn't about teaching, it was about these kiddos. We want to work with you on these kids specifically, and how can we help these specific kids? And it was an invitation to like, what do you think? Can we help you and work with you in your PLCs and your planning? And every teacher that said yes and participated in the full coaching cycle and didn't stop at the first 6-week cycle, all of their kids made growth.
Like not just those ones that
No.
pulled it down.
All of their class. Yeah. So the kids that did it, and then they went, oh, well, because of course our assumption was the ripple effect would be if they focus on these 6 kids, then they're really gonna, like, it'll expand to all of the kids, right? Low and high, and it did. It was the coolest data ever. So, I mean, yes, but, and then the teachers that chose to not participate for various reasons, we had a few out on maternity, we had various reasons, did not see, I mean, it was like a yes and a no, it was awesome. So coaching, plus using curriculum, plus following pacing guides, and really, and tier 1, we focused on tier 1 instruction, like major focused on tier 1.
Okay, go
You go
ahead.
first.
You might ask.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I had a parent show me their printout of their students, all their scores, beginning, middle, end of year, that she got at the end of the school year last year, and she was like, why did my child get worse at math, and why didn't I know while this was happening. So I just wondered if in our Power School modules and along the way, if there is some kind of systematic way we pull parents in. She's like, I would have been supporting, you know,
Yeah.
she was trying to figure out what that data was telling her.
Yeah.
Because it was really specific, and I thought it was awesome around the
Yeah.
different kinds of operations in
Yeah.
that
It
and
breaks
how
it
they
all
were
apart.
doing it.
It's awesome.
And so
Yeah.
she was like, I would have been a partner in this. So that's just a
So that's good
heads up.
feedback for us to hear, because part of the Senate bill requires annual communication with parents twice a year, both at middle of year and
Right.
end of year, and
Okay.
the report and letter are supposed to go home to
Okay.
every K-3 teacher, so maybe I can talk to you later about maybe where that was.
That's
to find
great.
out where
Well, I don't
maybe where
wanna
the
call anyone out
miscommunication
because
is.
it's just
No,
a
no,
data
it's not a
point,
call
but
out, it's
maybe
just
a
a good like,
reminder.
hey, let's
Yeah.
make sure these go home.
Okay.
So that should be happening, and along with that, the teachers have to send home, if your student is below grade level, specific interventions that are happening to support them, that is required. And we help the schools with the formatting and the letter, and it's a pretty automated-ish kind of
Yeah.
process we help them with to make sure those go out. So I would like to make sure to help with that schools or that teacher. So, Meg, did you have a question?
So I guess the idea though is that we then will start broadening this so everyone will kind of get on board. I mean, maybe based on probably seeing the success of this.
So we're gonna do the same process, we just get to do it a little faster this year because Nate already built the system to pull all the kids the right way. So we will hopefully have the numbers differently, and also probably not maybe invite to try this with us, but like, you're gonna try this with us.
The
But yay,
teachers
you
who
have an
did it.
instructional coach, we have the data to support,
Right.
yeah.
We
Yeah,
have
and then our
resources.
tier 2 reading group, where there were 2 big goals that did, and the same thing happened with our students who were significantly below grade level, and we were trying to get them to move, same invitation, different groups of students. Same exact thing, schools who were like, yes, come help us with these groups, come help us with this, those kids all made the growth. So same thing, we're just gonna maybe, we have more support in the schools now to help, it's not, right, so it maybe they won't feel so overwhelmed
They'll
with
feel
like,
more supported
they'll
to
just feel
do
more
this.
supported, yeah.
I also think we'll, you know, to Doug's point, he's been talking about in our PLCs, like it doesn't do us any good if we don't have teacher leaders that are actually trained in helping our teachers look at data and what that's really informing. So now that we have that grant, then now we can train those teacher leaders and pay them to actually put in the time to be those leads in those grade level teams and content area teams, and so they can be helping those groups to analyze that data so that they can make better decisions, because that's got to be the next step with PLCs. It's not just about making sure your planning is the same and you're teaching all the same standards, but it's like, what are we actually doing with this data, and how am I supporting kids that need, like, you know, to be challenged, as well as the students that are behind. So
We did have, Lisa, kind of to answer another one of your questions about math and Melanie for resources. We learned at the beginning of the year last year through some, you know, non-scientifically based survey data gathering from teachers that they really lacked an understanding of Acadian's math. They're really solid in reading. So we did like a big district reset on Acadian's math, on PD, you know, how to use the data to inform your instruction, and we got really great feedback district-wide on that from teachers, and we're just kind of getting that momentum going when it was, you know, spring and end of year. So I think to Wendy's point, that PLC process of teachers' understanding was built quite significantly last year, which was good. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on. Item number 14, the boundary and feasibility study recommendation. And that's to you, Devin.
Okay, so we did a RFP for a boundary and feasibility study district-wide. We've been talking about it for a little while, so we had 3 vendors present to us, and today we're just going to talk about what everybody wants, make a recommendation, and then we'll bring it for a large purchase request at the next meeting. So the two companies that we're leaning towards are MGT and GIS, which are the 2 companies that were more in line with what we were looking for. MGT just has a lot more experience in the state of Utah, has done some of the larger districts in the state of Utah. GIS has not done any studies in the state of Utah, and also use secondary vendors to help with part of their study. So, any comments?
I would make a recommendation to use MGT.
Okay. So we'll move forward with that. I have that we have all the purchasing documentation from our RFP process, and then we'll award it and then go through purchase process in a couple weeks.
That's good, thank you so much, Devin. All right, Devin again.
Yeah.
We have a large purchase request for the parking lot structural infill.
So this is for to bring in additional dirt into the parking lot because we weren't going as deep with the asphalt. It also helps, the increased cost will decrease our cost for demolition when we start the next phase, but it will also last a little bit longer with the new infill and doesn't provide spots where it will pool, have a lot of water in the parking lot. So this is for, it's a Westland, but it's through Kenny Sang. We had to move forward. It's already done because we had to move forward with it, or it would not have, it would have stopped construction. And we would not have been able to have additional parking for teachers in the parking lot.
So that was the one we saw.
Yeah, this is the one we talked about, the deciding whether to go with the more thinner asphalt. This is in relation to that approval, so.
Can I ask a question about that?
Of course.
I thought we were going to spend less than our original expectation because we knew we were going to then build in that place
We
later.
haven't seen a credit yet for what we have not used on the contract, so they don't just credit against what there is.
Because I was looking at this where it said credit original build material versus the structural fill, and that, I was like, it looks like we actually spent more than we were going to spend on our higher grade parking lot in order to be able to tear it up later, but maybe I misunderstood.
And I would have to review the contract. This was just to add the infill dirt. It was the whole cost of the parking lot was a couple of million, if I remember what so this was, I don't know, we will not get credited back $300,000 on it, but this will help decrease the cost of the demolition here in a few years, plus provide us with good dirt around there.
Okay.
So.
Is this still coming out of the money we budgeted for the current Timpview project? Okay.
Any questions for Devin on this large purchase request? Okay, great, thank you. All right, another large purchase request. This is the pre-construction cost for Wasatch.
This should just take a minute because George did a great job explaining, which I thought he would do way better than me, but this is just that we met a couple months ago before we broke for the summer, and they brought me the $235,000 bill. I expressed my concern about it being so high, especially since we were going to have to pay for the use of Wasatch for the months, and so we were able to negotiate it at least down to the $75,000, which I'm more comfortable with. It's not something that I love because, but I realized some of the delays it wasn't their fault. It was a perfect storm.
Yeah, a lot of different things.
Any questions on the pre-construction cost for Wasatch?
No, but thanks for asking Toby to come and answer questions. That was very helpful. I know it set us back timeline, but I appreciate it.
Not too hard. Not too
We're
hard.
doing good.
And for getting them to come down.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay, great. Then we'll go ahead and move on to some discussion about the Dixon site and potential CTE offerings there.
Yeah, so I just emailed you a copy of some of the questions that came out of the June 20th meeting, so there will be a link in there and you can pop that open, and then Clea's already started writing in some of the questions. We had questions about how many students are being served at MTech, and I just wanted to kind of let you look at that for just a minute and kind of refresh your mind, but we wanted Clay to be here to answer some of these questions about how many students would a site at Dixon that is a more CTE centered site, how many students it would help and serve in that process. We had questions about how MTech classes were different. I think maybe even starting there, Clay, would be really helpful about how MTech is a little bit different than if we could provide those programs ourselves what would the advantages to that be? Because I think that's something that we weren't understanding.
Do you want me to come up here?
Yeah, please, that'd be great, thanks,
Do
Clay.
you guys have this email? Did you just get this? She's gonna finish.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the challenge a little bit with MTech is there's 3 different sites, right? You have the Orem, Spanish Fork, and Lehigh site, and now they're building one in Payson. And so the one in Provo is very limited. If you know where it is, it's in the courtroom. Oh, sorry, the old courthouse down there. Thanks, Bonnie.
Yeah, if you go to the front, the camera's out here.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Camera's right there. Now you're great.
Yeah.
You're perfect.
So there's very limited offerings that they have at the Provo site, if you notice what they have. And there's a conflict with a lot of the schedules. If a kid takes an MTech class and goes down there, he's got to take, he or she has to take 3 class periods off to go down there and do it. It's from 7:30 to 10:30. So for example, a great example of that is medical assisting. We offer that at Timpview High School, but they also offer it at MTech, and it's virtually the same program. But a kid that goes there would have to take 3 classes off Monday through Thursday, so it's really 6 classes. They're going to have to take most of their schedule to be able to do it. We did have one student that did that last year. It's a good program, it does virtually the same thing, but there's lots of benefits for doing it just at the high school, especially with the teacher and the program that we've established already at Timpview. The other programs that they have there, we have very few students, maybe 30 to 40 students throughout all of the MTechs that would go. We have a few students that go to Lehigh campus. There's a few that go to the Orem campus. Oh, I forgot about the Orem campus. I didn't mention that as well. And I don't think we have any that go to Spanish Fork that I know of. But they do lots of good things. A lot of the things that they do articulate to the university if they want to continue on and get a degree in that area as well as some of the classes that we offer in CTE articulate into MTech, so they can start doing the program or the pathway in CTE in the high schools, and then when they go to MTech they can continue on. They don't have to pay tuition if they go to MTech, but they do have to pay fees. Fees range anywhere between $200 to $800 or $900.
These are
depending on the
not
class.
fee waivable, correct?
Yeah, they would not be.
Oh, wow. So ours would be?
Yes.
Yes, ours would be, yeah. But currently we're not charging fees for any CTE classes that we have right now, which is very rare for a district. So Devin's done a good job finding us the money for that.
Yeah, actually that's awesome.
Yeah, so any questions about kind of the difference between MTech? I mean, we want to have a good partnership with them, and we do, and they've been a good support to us, and they work well with us. They are expanding what they're doing. They're kind of going into the software development area on the next level of the courthouse in Provo, which would be great, but we do offer a lot of those already in we offer, computer programming, and we offer AP through that as well already through our high school.
Do those help, is there like certification for those programs for like computer programming, or no? It's like it helps get to the next step once they go to secondary.
It helps them get to the next step, yeah. And there are certifications. There's a pathway, a part of that helps them get to, get them certifications and get them, further along, for sure. A lot of that we find the industry wants to train them on their own software, and so they want to take them when they're raw and then send them back to school and learn what they want them to do in that area.
But these kind of programs can help them get that initial contact with the employer, and then they're like, "Okay, you have the foundation. Now we want you to go do it." Okay.
Yep.
We had talked a little bit about CAPS, and Lisa had mentioned that she felt like it was really hard to recruit the number of students into CAPS as it is. Will you speak a little bit more about CAPS and how we would house that how we would like to house that at a site within the district, and how we could expand that?
That was one of my main really concerns about CAPS is we are in a space where it's not ours, right? We're at the New Skin building, and it's been fantastic. It's great, and they treat us so well. And we got in there because of COVID and not a lot of people coming back to work, and they said, hey, we have the space open, come use it. Just today, we had 70 kids there today. So we're really kind of bursting at the seams right now. I know last semester, the second semester seems like it's always a little bit less. But this year we've got 70 kids. It was really cool to see them all there today and filling up those rooms. We had 26 kids in the engineering program. We did a really big push of Provo High because that seems where our numbers were lacking, and it's about equal right now. It's pretty close to equal on both sides. So that's, I mean, we really can't take more than that in the space that we have. That's about all we can handle. We could maybe take a few more in digital design and a few more in the health science, but that's about it. And so that's a big concern about, okay, you know, we don't want to turn kids away from this program. We want to have them be able to, you know, apply and get in whenever they want. Yeah.
How much does enrollment drop that second semester or the last 2 years from your first to your second?
You know, it's about 10 to 15 kids probably, from first semester to second semester.
What capacity would you like to see? Like would you like us to be able to offer if we were in a space that was our own and we had space, like we have 70, like how many would you, what
Like
kind of growth would you see?
Well, I would also, you can see in there too, there's a couple different programs I'd love to add. One is teaching as a profession.
Okay.
I would love to be able to grow our own, and be able to, there's a pathway that they've established now at the CTE level that they can take, and they can get credit done. There's even a concurrent enrollment side to it too as well. So they can get into the program if they finish that, right, or at least UBU will accept them right away. And so that's something I'd like to expand. So that's another 15 to 20 kids there.
And that's not CAP, so that's CTE.
That, and I would probably put it under the CAPS area. But, and then we were thinking about splitting the digital media and the software development, kind of making that a little bit bigger and more robust. I think there's room for growth in that area as well. So around, you know, if we did that, you know, you're talking about 90 to 100 kids.
Then you're increasing the options.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I think one of the other questions would be, is there a way for us to get a list of like, what are the highest demand jobs that we have in, say, Provo and Utah County? And how would these programs be helping to prepare? Because I think if we're going to make an argument to the public that we want to invest in this, we need to show that our post-secondary options for them would be
Yeah, I could get that for sure, and I can get that to you. The cool thing about CT is you're going to see high wage, high demand jobs. You're going to see engineering, you're going to see health science, which could lead to your very high wage jobs. But you'll also see high need jobs as well. You'll see construction and automotive or diesel tech and things that we could offer that they need people in. And that could be good careers for people and get them started as well. So yeah, I could get you a list of those and let you know. I know health science is one of the biggest ones right now, especially nurse practitioners. High demand for that right now. And so a lot of our medical assisting students end up in different positions like that. Yeah, go ahead.
If we were to do this on the Dixon site, how flexible is the space? Like if, say we go and do a diesel mechanic thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of money to throw into it, but then all of a sudden diesel mechanics are out of there because they're all electric cars. I'm just throwing something out there, right? So how easy is it to flexible for the spaces, or is it going to be really expensive, or?
I mean, it's always expensive, especially when you're talking about shops, right? They're really expensive. So I think we need to be nimble and need to be smart about what we do, right? We don't want to go down a path where we're stuck and pigeonholed. And the good thing about CTE is we have to have advisory groups, and we invite industry partners in. And so we have to meet with them every year and talk about, you know, what is the trend in industry and where are we going to make sure that we're following that. So we're not just doing like pet projects that we think are fun and good. We want to make sure we're following industry standard on that. But to your point, I think it would be wise to do that, making sure, okay, we're sure this is something that's going to last in, you know, 10, 15 years down the road.
And I think there are several examples of tech centers across the state that have done that, where it's like we have set up as diesel, but as electric cars become, then how do we transition that over so that students can do that? So they are trying to be very forward thinking in what that is, and they work with architects to design those spaces, but we definitely would want to do that. So.
And I know we've talked before, I'd be interested in visiting. I don't know, as a board, if I would love to visit those before we
make a plan.
Jump.
Yeah.
I'd like to see some space.
I would love to take you on some different visits in the state. As you know, Ogden's doing something really cool right now. Just this year, they're kind of partnering with their tech school up there to be. They just built a new tech high school, and so that's somebody similar to our size that they did something really cool, and they got looks like they got a donation from Larry H. Miller or something that really helped. But something that they brought the tech school into a high school that they developed, which is kind of interesting.
That was
Yeah, go
similar to
ahead.
my question was, I have heard about other tech schools around the state, but Alpine and Nebo don't have one, right?
Nebo does.
Nebo
they,
does have a
it's,
tech school?
it's their ALC center, and so they have
And
tech.
where's that?
It's in Salem.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they do it a little different, and all of them do it kind of unique to their district. But they also combine a lot of concurrent enrollment in different classes, not only just CTE and concurrent enrollment, but they also have like history and English and math there as well. But they have a lot of their trades there, and so they consolidated and did some things
Add
there.
that to our tour.
Yeah, I could, Jill Linford's the principal, and she's great.
I'd love to ask our student board members, sorry to put you on the spot, but what your thoughts are around CTE classes, things you've seen your friends really like, kind of, do you think there's a need that students have expressed, or have you heard students kind of wishing they could take classes in a certain thing?
So
I don't actually know.
CTE is career and technical
Yeah.
education,
Yeah.
is that correct? Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
okay.
I think a big thing was, because my brother was in the CTE program and he did CAPS, and the biggest thing with him was the commute to New Skin. They provided the bus, but even with that, like, you're taken off grounds of the school, and then you have to come back, and then if you have activities after school, say like a club or a meeting, anything like that, it's really hard to make it back in time and be able to commute easier. So I think what Ogden did, like putting it into the school, was really great. I know that's very expensive though, but I think that was very smart of
More
them.
accessible.
Yeah, more accessible just for students in general, and I think also providing more programs like the cars and construction.
Right.
I think that's very helpful. I think that's a great idea.
For me, kind of the same thing, just the commute time to New Skin. But at the same time, I've had a lot of friends saying that being at New Skin, like that was the experience that really helped them, that really like motivated them, just because it's kind of for like all the reasons why we're thinking about putting it into a high school. It's off school grounds, you're in a working environment, you're out in the real world.
Feels real.
And so they said that like those were some of the things they really liked about being in the New Skin building.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah,
That's
good
helpful.
points. That's
Yes.
great. To your point, if we did have our own center, we could, then we get to choose kind of the time and
Yes, we do.
because that has been an issue. Certain kids that want to play sports or something haven't been able to be a part of CAPS because they have that athletic class at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good, yeah.
Do you have any other questions for Clay? This document has a ton in there, and if there's more questions that you think of,
Yeah.
then we can get those to Clay. He's really good about answering them because he did this very quickly for me. So I was
Thank you
very
guys
impressed.
No, you're
so
fine.
much.
And can
Yeah.
we get that, is that okay to get that added to board docs so that the public can
Yes,
see it?
absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely.
Okay, great.
You're fine.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
thanks.
Clay.
Thank you, Clay.
Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and move items 18 and 19 into our business meeting for the sake of time. So we'll go ahead and adjourn our study session now and then take a 5-minute break till 7 p.m. to start our business meeting. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you so much. Motion made by Board Member Van Wagenen. We're adjourned. We'll see you all in the PDC in just a moment.